Mic check 1 2 1 2. Mic check 1 2 1 2. If anyone in the chat can hear me, just push 1. All right, got a confirmation. Thank you for the confirmation. Welcome back to the Black Brain Trust. This is episode 389, Geopolitics. Please hit the like button if you come in, share the video if possible, hit that notification bell so you get all the updates from the Black Brain Trust, including those posted on the community tab. There's a docket and description beneath the video for you to follow along with. If you want to join the panel and engage in the discussion, there'll be a link in the chat. Make sure that when you click on the link, you raise your hand so that one of us can acknowledge you, so you can be advanced to the panel. All right, we dropped that link for you all. Let me acknowledge people in the chat. Shout out to Richard Victor Dixon, first one in the room. Jonathan Phillips, what's going on, fam? Thank you for the compliment, man. Yeah, I got to do a follow-up, man, to Mr. Fantastic. I think that what I was saying may have been going over some people's heads, and that the energy in the room wasn't right. I walked into a bit of a more hostility than I'm used to dealing with it on here. But yeah, thanks for the compliment. Keep it techie, what's going on, fam? What's going on, Josh? Ado-A, what's going on? NC Worker, what's going on? Mega Montana, what's going on? Zone, my dude, what's going on? Willie Little John, what's going on? Yeah, you know, it's an interesting discussion. I think that I personally observed a lot of misinformation being spread on the panel, and I didn't really like that. You know, a lot of people spreading stuff about 5G, automation, artificial intelligence. You know, a lot of it wasn't consistent with my knowledge and what is actually going on in reality. You know, a lot of speculation about what artificial intelligence is going to do, what automation is going to do, you know, fourth industrialized emerging technologies. You know, these are things that we cover on a weekly basis here. And a lot of what the information that they were saying was not consistent with our knowledge and our understanding and comprehension of the industry itself. It just wasn't correct. You know, Complex Design is a IoT subject matter expert. He can speak to a lot of what they were saying. And I think, you know, I work in cybersecurity myself. So when you talk about facial recognition and things of that nature in 5G, there was just a whole lot of conflation of technologies together that was not consistent with what is and with what's factual, right? You know, it was just like, you know, you need, you know, facial recognition, 5G, just a lot of buzzwords and stuff that gets thrown out there. And I don't really like that. You know, I like to, you know, have a real, I like to have a conversation with people who have a real understanding of what's really going on, right? Who can actually speak truth to power and knowledge on what's being, what the topic is on and what the subject matter is. And you know, that's what it is. Shout out to Fantastic, man. That's my dude, man. You know, we have good rapport, we have good relations over there with, you know, between BABG and the Black Brain Trust, man. We always work together, share knowledge with each other, man. He came through and blessed our panels in the past, and you know, it's all love, man. He you know, he's always welcome over here, man. We definitely gonna have to chop it up with him again. You know, I like to bring him over here, you know, and maybe we can do something over here though. So shout out to Fantastic, man. Shout out to Ramil. I know Ramil is really digging for information because he's trying to learn himself. So Ronan Black, what's going on? Money God Trading, what's going on? Rain and woman, good evening to you. Yeah, Jonathan, man. Yeah. I feel you. Dr. Phoenix, my dude, what's going on, man? Check your email when you get a chance, man. I actually attended a telehealth monthly meetup last night with Blue Cross Blue Shield here in Boston at their innovation lab. Really dope stuff that's going to be coming down the pike, and that's going on right now currently. And I got to get in touch with you so we can actually talk about some of this telehealth stuff on a day that you're free. Let me see if anybody's waiting in the waiting room. Nah, so I'll just get started. Yeah, it's always good to have these conversations. That was going on Fantastic's panel, but I think the conversations have to be, they have to be consistent with facts, right? I'm a type of person who's a stickler for sources, right? You need to cite your sources. It can't just be from any rogue site. I quote the World Economic Forum because that's a credible source, very credible source. We quote, white papers, we have a lot of links to stuff in dockets, that's why we have a docket and description beneath the video so you can follow along with that if you don't believe what we're saying. My experience in security is completely different than someone sitting on a panel and not really having a full a full breadth of knowledge themselves on what's going on. I don't like people throwing out technology terms like that. It's like saying, you work in the medical field, but you only provide first aid, with Band-Aids. Like that's not, to me, that's not that's not real. That's not real. So. All right, let me fire this up, man. Oh man, my head hurts now. All right, let me just get to this real quick. We're already late. All right. All right, first item on the docket is from Engadget.com. China bans all government departments from using US-made technology. Another tit for tat in the war over Huawei. It was only a matter of time before China started offering trade bans to US companies in return for the ban on Huawei's gear. The Financial Times is reporting that Beijing has ordered all government institutions and public bodies to get rid of their foreign computer gear. According to the report, China will spend between now and 2022 transitioning off American hardware and software in favor of local alternatives. This isn't the first time that China has publicly and not so publicly declared American technology as persona non grata within its government. But the move may have more urgency this time as the country looks to push back against the broader geopolitical picture. Not to mention that other nations like Russia are also doing their best to push domestic technology onto their citizens. China is also looking for ways to better control the internet and keep its data within its borders. Following the 2017 China Internet Security Law, one of its tentpole features is a rule to ensure that all technology is secure and controllable, which is, as usual, particularly troubling. Companies likely to face pain include Microsoft, who already has a testy relationship with the country, Dell, HP, and Apple. Although it's worth saying that, as with any technology product sourced from around the world, what constitutes a domestic product? After all, the Financial Times, the FT uses Lenovo as an example. Financial Times is what FT is referring to. A Chinese company that sources chips from Intel US and hard drives from Samsung Korea. So there is a digital cyber Cold War going on right now. And what divided East Germany and West Germany was a wall. Now it's a technology wall going in between China and the United States. And so this is really going to affect a lot of companies, and they're going to be looking for alternatives politically, at least from the West. They're going to be looking for alternatives politically to handle this situation. If China has 1 billion people in it, plus not including its government, you take that into consideration. A lot of systems that need to be built to be shipped to the continent or to the continent of China, subcontinent of China, will be massively affected. Massively affect the profits of these big tech companies. So while the Trump administration may walk away and say, yeah, this is a political win for us, we don't have to do business with them, the tech companies are saying, hey, this is really affecting our bottom line. So a technology Cold War is in place. All right, let me get to the next article. I don't see it. All right, let me see if I can open this up. All right, this one is from the New York Times. Impeach Trump, save America is the only thing to do if our country democracy is to survive. This is an op-ed. Impeaching a president is the most consequential thing our Congress can do, other than declaring war. So after great consideration, I say President Trump not only should be impeached, but he must be impeached if America's democracy is to remain intact. This is behind a paywall, and I'm not going to pay for this for Thomas Friedman. I like Thomas Friedman's work, but I think this is a very questionable perspective. You impeach Trump, and what that does is it opens up the floodgates for Democrats to be impeached as well. Usually you impeach a president if there's some kind of criminal negligence that's going on. What they're accusing Trump of, and I'm no Trump supporter, but what they're accusing Trump of is not criminal negligence, but a misinterpretation of the law itself. Did he talk to Ukrainians? Did he get information from a Ukrainian about the presidential election? So it went from talking with Russians or Russian bots or some other communications with Russians behind the scenes to Ukrainians now. So what you see here is a grasping for straws, and they're going to do whatever they can to cause disruption. I don't believe that they're going. I don't foresee them actually impeaching Trump. I don't think that they have enough credible information to actually do it. But the idea is to tar and feather him as much as possible going into the election. The only thing this is going to do is actually boost his credibility, is with his base, because then it justifies that, yeah, he's so credible that they have to overthrow him, right? Short of sending some guys in there, with mercenaries in there to actually take him down. I think this is a bad move. I think they should let the let the votes come in, despite the fact that he was, he had the Electoral College. I don't think he's going to have it this time around. But the more you antagonize Trump, the more it's going to grow his base, because then people feel justified in supporting him, especially people who didn't come out before are definitely going to come out now and support him. I see somebody's waiting in the waiting room. So that's my perspective. I don't think that they're actually going to be able to get rid of Trump that easily. I think that impeaching him is a very bad move on behalf of the Democratic Party. You know, because you can't beat him. You're going to actually, and you can't beat him at the polls. You're going to beat him. You're going to beat him in the courtroom. Is that sort of deal, or in front of Congress for that matter?
You are going to have to beat this guy at the polls. That's what's up.
Yeah, that's the only way you can do it. But I think they're afraid that they may not be able to have that opportunity, that momentum to do so.
Well, I think that, if they get the right candidate, they get the right ground game, they do a lot of things that they need to do to make this thing happen the proper way, they can pull it off. But, it's tough to beat a sitting president. The methods that they're using right now are just going to, because I was watching, what was it, The Guardian or was it The Real News? I was watching one of these channels the other day, and I noticed where they were talking to a lot of his supporters, and they said they basically had stopped really listening to the news. They're not even listening to this stuff anymore. They're not even listening to this impeachment stuff. So people are not even listening to all this impeachment rap. It's not catching fire anymore. People are not really that interested. So maybe where we are in the timing of the year right now, maybe it's not a big deal, but folks are not, it's turning them off. So that tells me that's not a good sign. People are not really listening to it. So I think it's going to have very limited effect, if any. I don't think it's good. You got to really fracture his base. And is this base fracturing? I don't think they can fracture his base with this.
Well, let's say the Chinese is fracturing his base by not accepting agricultural goods from those states, right?
Well, that's hurt. Well, that could hurt him because that's hurting all the people he promised that he was who's going to be winning. Oh, there's going to be so much winning, you're not going to believe it. He talked all that, but now folks are finding things are a little bit, are not so much like that. But this is the thing that a lot of these guys are running on. Since Trump is kind of like the last great white hope, even though these people are not doing that well with them in certain areas, they're just not going to give him up that easily. They just aren't. People are actually still believing in this guy. He needs more time. He needs more of that. And that's what people are kind of saying. When you see Trump walking around, he's still stumping like he is he's for the underdog type of guy, and people are still buying into it.
Yeah, people are 10 toes. His people are 10 toes down with him, man.
Yeah. So
I know I am. I'm sorry, Nagone. I know I am.
Well, you can be down with that. Go ahead. But what I'm saying is there are a lot of people who are just in the tank for him, and that's just where they are. At the end of the day, you're going to have to beat this guy at the polls. That's really where this thing is going to come down to. Like it always has. If you think you're going to impeach him out of office, you're not going to get enough votes from the Senate to get him. The Electoral College, he had 3 major states that basically came through for him. Michigan, Iowa, and what was the other state that Michigan, Iowa, and of course, they lost. Hillary Clinton lost Pennsylvania. How'd she lose that? But anyway,
it's going to be tricky. It's definitely going to be tricky because only how I see the Democrats winning is if they have a centrist.
Well, the thing about it is, no, I personally think, you got a lot of millennials that are going to be coming to the vote. Somebody can really get these young people out. My view is to really win this thing, you may have to go hardcore progressive.
But Bloomberg is going to undercut a lot of votes.
Forget about Bloomberg. Forget it.
No,
Bloomberg
doesn't have any support at all.
Because Bloomberg is putting in a lot of money, and the Democratic Party is losing money.
They ain't gonna get it. They ain't gonna get it. He's got major segments that are not down with him. And let me tell you something: the African American vote, black men especially, and so forth, ain't coming out for this dude, bro. They ain't coming out for him. New York City has got a real issue. There's some people here in New York City's got a real issue with him. Stop and frisk and all that. That shit starts coming out. He gonna have a huge problem.
Yeah.
What's up, Nicole? What's up, Mike?
Yo, what's up, dude?
What's going on?
Hey, man. Hey,
the reason why Hillary Clinton lost Pennsylvania is because Ty City didn't vote when he was there.
Yeah, right. Well, I'm a super predator, remember?
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's really why I wasn't voting for Hillary Clinton. That's the main reason.
She had so many. She bled from so many. She bled from so many wounds.
That's the main reason why I didn't vote for Hillary.
I'm more riding with what Mike said. You know what I'm saying? Because I feel like now the Trump voter base is going to be they're going to be turned from supporters to defenders after this. You know what I'm saying? And it's going to strengthen his base.
But the name of the game is the name of the game is can you cut into his base and reduce his voting block? And I don't see what's happening here really doing a lot of that.
I think it's growing. I'm starting to see people actually question this whole thing that not even Trump supporters.
I don't even know if it's growing. I just know that he's at about 43% or so, 44% per
Bush. Well, Bush, he won the shit, and he won 286 to 254. So it's a game of inches, Nagon. And I know.
Listen. I understand this critically. I tell you, three states elected this guy in the EC. So at the end of the day, you're gonna have to really get a game going to beat this guy in the EC, man. That's where the Democrats are really gonna have to, get this thing together. Who's gonna be the candidate? And what is that ground game going to look like? And how are they going to beat this guy? That's what you're going to have to do. You're getting back to this is a street thing. You got to get back. You got to get back into the street fight game, and that's where you are with this guy.
Yeah. I mean,
that's where you are.
Yeah, I mean the especially with the auto industry, that affected like 6 states. These tariffs, destroying these farmers out here. So that dude is not about to win re-election. I don't care what nobody say. That dude is not about to win re-election. He is not going to win Ohio again. He's not going to win Pennsylvania.
I'll bet the house. I'll bet the house. I may be crazy as hell, but I bet the house because I know damn well I know liberal. I'd rather see a crazy wacko nut house conservative than a liberal.
Well, you guys use all kinds of labels.
Because black men and liberal shit don't mix. Black men and liberal shit don't mix. I don't want to be in no dress.
Easy, bro.
But
new YouTube.
Yeah, we kind of keep this objective, man. Not
Yeah. I'm just saying. But if you want to bet the house and if you stand on the corner with your nuts freezing, your nuts with your nuts freezing on the corner, fam. I don't know who's gonna come house you after that. But I would be betting
the coalition that got him elected is not going to be the coalition that he can keep riding with. I mean, turnout is everything. I'm not trying to change no Trump supporter. They're not even considered American citizens.
I'm not even trying to do that.
No, for the most part. I mean, because if the shoe was on the other foot, we know Hillary Clinton would have been impeached 5 minutes into her presidency.
I don't think so. If they ain't impeaching this guy, who's in bed with the Russian mob and laundering money, and all kind of
seriously,
If they ain't nailing this cat, then they wouldn't have got Hillary either. And listen, everybody got dirt on them when they get to this level. So ain't nobody here walk around squeaky clean. All right. Let's keep it a bean.
When he pulled off that grab him by the monkey stunt. And I was like, bro, this dude can't be touched. He cannot be phased.
Nah, he can't.
That's the first time I seen it. I was like, oh my God. I was like, man, they finna get him out of here. It ain't no way he gonna win after that.
But it showed you what the juggernaut, man. But it showed you what these women really think. They showed you what they really think.
Real talk. And that's the other side of it because men already know the hypergamous nature of women. You know what I'm saying? He was just putting it on the world stage. And for them to actually think that was going to be an effective play and it didn't work, I was like, oh man, they're going to need more than left.
52% of white women voted for him. 52%
voted 45.
They're going to have to go all.
They said grab me by the flaps as well. We doing this.
Nigga on a fool. Nigga on funny.
Grab him by the curtains, dog.
Grab by the curtains, man. Grab by the meat wallet. They don't care.
Yeah,
So,
you got
so
that bread.
this is how that
You
went
heard what
down.
he said? If you got the bread, you can grab their leg, and that's all it was.
You know, he got down. He'll get down again. So I'm just saying, if the Democrats are planning on winning this election, they better run intelligently. I'm gonna say this. I know people listen. Stop that dumb crap. It's all about the black women gonna do this for you. That's gonna drive brothers up. That's gonna drive brothers out. Don't be stupid. Okay, don't be stupid. Okay, sit there and really try to coalesce a strong base and really put people together with respect to interests and really run a game. I think a progressive game could work. If you're talking about the student debt and you're talking about healthcare and all these key things.
Oh yeah,
these
sure.
are big issues, man. These are big issues. That could get people rolling. It could get people rolling.
Nagone, I agree with you, but my plan with the student loan debt is have corporations pay for it and give them a 40% tax credits. Basically, I'm all about capitalism. I'm all about tax cuts and guns, really.
Well, listen. I'm very sophisticated.
40% tax cuts. 40 year tax cuts.
Tax cuts are doing nothing but helping out the super rich, and they're gonna end up having to pay more anyway. The way things are.
I believe in oligarchy. So basically, I believe.
Are you an oligarch?
Oligarch? Yeah. Are you? How much?
Are you an oligarch?
You made last year?
Are you an oligarch?
Me personally, I'm a classist. Me personally, I'm a classist.
Are you an oligarch?
I'll give you a net. 60,000 a year. Only thing I believe is corporations. Period.
In fact, you just a gark.
Yeah. Dude.
Because honestly,
you hyper positions that you wish you were in.
I'm about getting welfare. I'm about giving rebates, and I'm about keeping our guns. Period.
What do you think tax cuts is?
Exactly, man. Exactly.
Because honestly, I don't care if they run up a check. Just make sure the American people.
Look at this guy.
He trolling.
Yeah, of course he is.
MOT, I got love for y'all, Nagone. I got love for y'all, but honestly, we can't just destroy corporations.
Hey, John.
Yeah, where are we talking about destroying corporations? Explain that one to me.
We're talking about holding them responsible so that way they don't become oligarchs.
No.
I mean,
no. We have to create incentives for corporations to give back.
Let him keep going. Go ahead.
We have to create incentives for corporations to give back. We have to give them incentives. It has to be either tax cuts or them be able to giving out grants.
Okay. What have all these tax cuts done
is
for you so far?
Corporate welfare? Like, do you think tax cuts is corporate welfare?
Of course, I believe in corporate welfare over black women getting welfare.
Okay. I got a question.
No.
Okay, all right.
Jonathan.
Yes, sir.
Have a good night, bro.
All right. Love and peace to the chat. Nagone, holla at me.
Who's this now?
Jonathan Phillips. I hit you up on about
Jonathan. Yeah, man. Listen.
Oh, that's
I called your number, and you have been.
That's your man.
Hold on a second, man. Hold on a second. John, we'll talk. I rung you up. Your number, your mailbox is full and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know what's going on. Open up your box. I'll get a hold of you. Let's see.
Okay, for sure. And salute to MOT and salute to Ty City and salute to Mike. I hope y'all brothers get y'all money. I got nothing but respect and love for y'all.
Yeah, man,
don't win in these streets.
Don't take it personal. You can't make statements like that, though. Can't make statements like that here.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, but here's the thing, man. Like, we're never gonna have balance in society.
So he a young cat. He a young dude. He a young cat. He sees things a certain kind of way. I do understand. I have some understanding of his mindset about certain things. Okay. I do that. I'm not going to expound on that at all here. But I understand where it's coming from. But but remember, being young, there's still an education. There's still an educational curve that folks have got, for maturity and more education. The things you got to pick up out here. And, smart cat doing certain things, but not a finished product yet. That's just kind of where we is. I'm not being facetious. I'm not breaking on him in any way. I'm just saying that's just kind of where we're at in things. And he's about business. He's about his mugger. So I cannot get mad at these young cats out here. I can't get mad at them. I know they got a lot going on. So it's part of our job to help to sharpen their minds as well. So anyway, go ahead, fellas. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it's just that. Listen, all the stuff that he said could affect him before he even makes it to that level. Like corporate tax cuts is welfare. Period.
Yeah,
to
it
the
is.
highest degree. To the highest degree.
Yeah. Period.
Crony capitalism.
Like this is what I think. When you say that, they should lock you up for life for even saying it out loud. Because there's no way, unless you're already a billionaire, you can't be in the tank for a group that you ain't in yet. Unless something is clearly wrong there. I don't believe that type of stuff because I want society to be able to work. So if you give all the corporate welfare to corporations, and if corporations are the one who's getting all these government contracts, then nothing's never going to work. There's never an opportunity for you to even make it to that level. So this is why you have to have a kind of level playing field for everybody. Because look at our country. Corporations can sell all type of medications and actually kill people and just get away with fines. I can't do that with my company. And
I understand I understand the regulation aspect of stuff, but I'm for a free market, dog.
You understand regulations, but you for a free market. Could you reconcile that?
Well, when it comes to the point of people, just like you said, killing people, I understand that we can't have that going on. But I feel like if you're going out of business, you're going out of business, and I feel like nobody's too big to fail. That's how it should be. I understand it don't work like that, but I mean that's how we got in this position now. We did all the saving. We saved too much. We saved a lot of people who should have went down already.
Oh yeah. I mean,
yeah.
I don't think we should have bailed out the bank.
Unfortunately, I have to agree with some of that. I really do.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Especially coming from Wall Street and seeing a lot of the effery that went down on there and some of the banks and stuff that was saved. That was up to me. I would have let them dudes drop lower than a freaking whale turd. But but they let these guys survive because of their political connections and so forth. I'd have tore many folk out the frame. I would have flipped this whole bitch up. But
well, see, hey, that's my thing too. Is if you need a government subsidy like to be in business, then you should have been out.
You don't deserve to be there. You don't deserve to be there. Like most of these farmers who walk around who say they work hard, they're nothing but spray and rake farmers. They plant, spray, and rake in like the summertime, going around telling other people that they're welfare recipients when their whole structure is based on welfare. Period. Right. And they use illegal immigrant labor.
And that's why,
like, come on, yeah.
But see, and that's why people don't understand that when they start talking about welfare to certain people, that whole thing is government subsidy.
Yeah. I mean, like, okay, we got the government who give National Institute of Health grants out to research this stuff, and Big Pharma comes in and buys the medication and privatizes it. This is something that America has already paid for, and a private company could just come through, buy the best research in the world, and put this product on the market and make billions off of it. Well, that's also a form of corporate welfare.
Well, see, MOT, that's why nobody will ever vote against food stamps and stuff, because from the cereal companies to the milk companies, everybody's benefited from that. So, I mean, when it comes down to it, we looking at, I know what the brother said was messed up, but I mean, they win. That money's being paid. All those services are being paid for through these food snaps and food stamps and stuff like that. These corporations get that money.
Oh, of course they do. I mean,
yeah. So I mean, at the end of the day, they getting it, even though somebody's receiving it. That it was already paid for.
Yeah, I mean, but here's the other thing. There's a smarter way of getting rid of it rather than just targeting one group of people. I'm just like, you just have to means test this stuff and actually itemize what these people spend their money on. That's it.
I
mean, there's a
just think
fixing
it's got to be a
stuff.
priority. There's got to be a priority system where I think the priority system is way out of whack. You know what I'm saying? Where
oh yeah,
we look at it from, should we feed these people or keep this company from going under? Should we you know what I'm saying? Should we do this with the infrastructure or should we put it over here? You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's all out of whack.
It is, man. And at the end of the day, this stuff isn't going to work overall for the people who are coming up through the system who do got good ideas. It's kind of impossible for them to break off if the whole market is based on you using your money to just pretty much run people through the court system. You know, no patent trolling and all this kind of stuff. That's what that corporate stuff leads to overall. It's the end of competition. Because you can't compete with somebody who get a 40% tax cut or Amazon or Google who don't pay any taxes.
And that's what I'm saying. It's not really like, that's why I'm for a free market. It actually will drive competition.
Yeah. Well, you have to understand, so much is non-taxable, you know, not taxing and all that. You've reduced your tax base. You put a lot more pressure on the middle class. You've actually you've taken on a lot more debt, and you've actually run yourself into this situation that we're running into right now. And I'm telling you, it's going to be the corporations, the super rich, that are going to have to get get us out of this. I'm telling you, that's how this is. They're going to have to come up with a capital call like they did in 1907, just like they did in 1929, just like they had to do ultimately again in 2008. I mean, you know, this is what's going down, man. And people they just don't see what's getting ready to happen. But that's why I'm not even arguing no more.
But see, you know what, Nagoon, like I from what I'm researching and doing my research in like banking and whatnot, on a global scale, these people coming up with a solution already. You know what I'm saying? They already in the backdrop trying to get something together to, you know what I'm saying, to do something. And I think
what they've done on a global scale is ship your jobs out, took a lot of stuff, put them in other countries.
Yeah, stupid.
That they're going to try to keep over there to try to keep their money over there. They're going to, because when the heat comes down over here, they're going to try to find a place where they can run. And that's essentially what you're really looking at.
I'm looking at the emergence of countries in Africa, India, Vietnam, and all these.
We're talking about that. That's part of where the new emerging markets are going to be. And
that's what I'm saying. I think they're going to serve as like a cushion. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel like them coming on board is going to cause like a cushion effect. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I feel is going to happen. I don't think people are going to flock there. I don't think it's going to be as hard of a hit as people think. I think because if it do go down, I think
for America it will be. For many Americans, it will be a very hard hit, man. It's going to be a very hard hit here. You know, if you have less jobs, and then you know the big talk now is the UBI and everything else like that. A lot of folks are not moving towards this more technical age that we're getting into. Our educational system is certainly not feeding, you know, the type of students that we need to deal with this new changing economy that we're in. This shit's gonna get ill, bro. It's just gonna get ill.
Oh yeah, I mean, for the most part, it's gonna shift. I mean, a lot of people are gonna be hurt, but it's gonna shift, and it's gonna take a hard turn. A lot of people are gonna be left out of that. But the top city's point is that, dude, it's just gonna shift. A lot of people are gonna be left behind, and they can't even catch up now. So when it does shift hard, like I'm not even sure how you're gonna be able to get these people to the baseline point. That's why I'm out there buying land right now. So that way, when these people can't eat, I could be the one right in position to feed them and get paid a lot of money by doing so.
Yeah.
All right, let me get to this next article. This one is from the MiamiHerald.com. Congress holds first hearing on Haiti in 6 years amid political instability. Minutes after House Democrats announced articles of impeachment on President Donald Trump on Tuesday, Representative Frederica Wilson entered a meeting room in Washington and asked a group of Haitian activists about efforts to impeach their embattled president, Jovenel Moise. We live in the United States and we have corruption right in our White House, just like you have corruption with your president, said Wilson, District Democrat of Miami Gardens. What has happened to the impeachment process in Haiti? Emmanuela Douan, an economist and activist with Petro Challenger and No Pop Dumi anti-corruption grassroots movement, laid out a scenario that makes the allegations against Trump look minuscule in comparison. They voted against impeachment, Douan said, of the lower house of deputies in the Haitian parliament that is controlled by the executive. Parliament members receive money for their vote. There is a corrupt parliament where the majority allies with the president, and they are taking money from the president and their party to vote when he needed their support. This was the same legislative body that jettisoned the prime minister in March, leaving Haiti without a legitimate government sense. The House Foreign Affairs Committee held its first hearing on Haiti in 6 years and amid ongoing political instability and widespread anti-government protests calling for Moise to step down. Wilson, who is not a member of the committee but represents one of the largest Haitian communities in the United States, said she pressured the committee to hold the hearing. We have basically put Haiti on the back burner for too long, Wilson said. There's apathy in the United States. There's apathy in Haiti. Now we have to put Haiti in the conversation of this committee. I am the genesis of this committee hearing because I said you got to have a hearing on Haiti. Wilson also organized a roundtable on Haiti with Speaker Nancy Pelosi in October, where prominent Haitian American leaders said the U.S. should stop meddling in Haiti and Moise should go. Tuesday's hearing was attended by 3 Republicans and 11 Democrats. 4 Democrats, Reps Maxine Waters, Barbara Lee, Ayanna Presley, and Wilson attended the hearing and asked questions, even though they are not members of the Foreign Affairs Committee, which is rare. The lawmakers searched for a solution to the crisis, which deepened last year's ill-timed fuel hike in July, and in mid-September led to a countrywide lockdown that lasted for 12 weeks. Schools, businesses, banks, and the court system were all shuttered. Businesses went bankrupt and a hunger crisis ensued, with roads still closed in some parts of the country. Waters, in particular, harshly criticized U.S. policy toward Haiti, arguing that Moise is among a list of current and past government officials implicated in a corruption report on how $2 billion in savings from Venezuela's Petrocabre oil program was stolen instead of invested to help the country's poor after the devastating 2010 earthquake. The U.S., she said, is holding up Moise's government. Our position is supporting the president is not a good position, Waters said. It is a failed position. The 5 witnesses in audience, which included dozens of Haitian activists, agreed. There was also no representative of the Haitian government there to defend Moise, who has dismissed corruption allegations and repeatedly said he is not resigning. Moise has proposed the creation of a unity government, but the opposition rejected all calls to dialogue and negotiate the formation of a new government. This is really long, so I'm not going to go through all of it, but basically what it looks like here is that the Democrats are trying to form their own foreign policy in how they deal with Haiti. And whether or not they get rid of Moise isn't so much the issue. What should be discussed is all the money that the French owe them that they were supposed to get in 2004 or 2007, if I remember correctly, as restitution for all those years of embattlement. And if they got that $25 billion, that could actually build a lot of infrastructure inside Haiti that they would not have to depend on anybody else, including agricultural development that Tony Rodham, who is the brother of Hillary Rodham Clinton, has been sending plastic rice to Haiti at a cost and making these people eat it.
Hey, Mike.
Yes, sir.
A friend of mine went down to Haiti on like a Christian mission or something.
Christian Mingle?
And, huh?
Christian Mingle?
Yeah, on a Christian Mingle meetup. No, he went down there and they was putting these water wells in there so to have water.
Mm-hmm.
And they got to a particular spot and they told them that they couldn't be there. And they asked them why they couldn't be there, and they straight up told them, the locals told them that the land was for it belonged to the daughter, the Clinton, I forgot her name.
Chelsea.
Chelsea Clinton owned the land, and he said that they went back 6 months later and they was mining on that land.
Yeah, there's a lot of gold inside Haiti, untapped, and there's a lot of oil. There's a lot of oil inside Haiti as well that is untapped.
Dog, he told me that. He not even into politics. That's what tripped me out. For him to tell me that, he was like, bro, Chelsea Clinton got land and they're mining minerals out of the ground in Haiti.
Oh yeah. The price of the land has gone up dramatically. Back in 2013, you could have got land, well, back in 2008, you could have got land for $1,000. That same equivalent land per acre is now close to 50 grand. My neighbors own land down there. They ship their Range Rovers and stuff down there. And they said when they came back, they said everybody else is down there except for ADOS.
Damn, man.
Damn, so they're starting to carve Haiti up, huh?
Yeah, they're already talking about Dominican Republic pushing their way in and actually not colonizing the land, but changing the borders, man, and trying to take over some of the parts of the eastern part of Haiti and some of their water territory as well, because there's oil inside there. There's gold inside both Haiti and Dominican Republic. The Venezuelans are mining that gold out of Dominican Republic, and these subsidies were supposed to be meant to compensate Haiti for their issues, but also the gold would have been mined by the Venezuelans.
But that's a problem when you have that bad, that poor government that's not even leading properly. The Haitians should be taking full advantage of this themselves.
Yeah, well, you know what? We talked about Hillary Clinton and them, and bro, this is another one of those reasons why she couldn't win. Mm-hmm. And you know what? That they were saying that what's crazy is they had the earthquake and they sent a bunch of machinery down there. They ended up using that machinery to start with the mining and shit.
Yeah, because Tony Rodham is a venture capitalist. He has investments in all of that stuff. So he has a what is it? Minerals startup or something like that, some kind of corporation. But basically, he has something like the Bears, right? He mines diamonds and stuff like that. There's diamonds inside of Haiti right now.
They were supposed to be building houses and stuff for them people. They sent all that stuff down there to just steal.
No, they sent like 2 or 3 tiny houses down there, and that was about it.
That shit fucked up, man.
Yeah, it is. It is. And so Royalty was on here. He can speak to that, man.
And that goes to what I was saying on another panel, man. Jay-Z on stage with Hillary Clinton is nuts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let me get to this next article. This one is from BusinessInsider.com. The U.S. Navy brags it has 7 carriers at sea. Half the fleet was stuck pierside over a month ago. The U.S. Navy bragged on social media Tuesday morning that it currently has 7 aircraft carriers underway, a major improvement over the situation in late October, when half the carrier fleet was in a non-deployable state. The Navy has 7 aircraft carriers underway today, NBD. The Navy Chief of Information tweeted Tuesday in a humble brag, NBD is an acronym for no big deal. Less than 2 months ago, the Navy had that many carriers stuck pierside due to maintenance issues preparation for midlife overhauls and unexpected malfunctions and new construction challenges. On the East Coast, the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower was winding up to a deployment after an extended maintenance availability. The USS George Washington was in the yard for its refueling and complex overhaul with the USS John C. Stennis. Pierside, apparently in preparation for its midlife overhaul. The USS George H.W. Bush was in extended maintenance. The USS Harry S. Truman was down for an electrical malfunction. The USS Gerald R. Ford was in an extended post-shakedown availability. And on the West Coast, the USS Carl Vinson was in maintenance, leaving only a handful of the 11 carriers readily available. Even with less than half of its carriers available, the Navy still had ready and unmatched, ready an unmatched carrier force. But the problem is that with that many ships in the yard, it makes it harder to meet the demand for carriers, important tools for the projection of American military power. I have a demand for carriers right now that I can't fulfill. The combatant commanders want carriers. Richard Spencer, the former Secretary of the Navy, said at that time. I heard of that name, Richard Spencer, before. Right now, the Truman is underway in the 6th Fleet area of operations, while the Stennis, Ike, and Ford are all underway in the Atlantic. The USS Nimitz and the USS Theodore Roosevelt are underway in the 3rd Fleet, AOR, and the USS Abraham Lincoln remains in the 5th Fleet, the Navy told Insider. The USS Ronald Reagan is forward deployed in Japan, but it is currently in port. I don't know. Sounds like, there's a lot of rich piatas, running around in the military, man. All these big aircraft carriers, but not really effective at this moment.
It's kind of like they're broadcasting a simple point that we back y'all. Like, come on, man.
I'm gonna laugh, but I agree. Yeah, we back, y'all. Yeah, okay. Do you say rich pianos, Mike? Put your rich pianos.
A bunch of rich pianos running around. Nice and big, but not really all that effective, man. Can't really
not all that effective. Not effective at all.
Getting stolen on by Mack truck, so.
Aircraft carrier gets stolen by Mack truck. That's funny, man.
Oh, did you see that, MLT?
No, man, that is pretty funny, man. A Mack truck stealing on an aircraft carrier.
No. Mack truck is a bodybuilder, and Rich Piana was a bodybuilder. Rich Piana died last year, but him and Mack truck, they died. They got into a fisticuffs at the the Olympia or the Arnold?
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. That's just the name. So Mack truck is actually a real bodybuilder, but Rich Piana was actually a over-injected steroid man.
Oh yeah.
He talked real big, but when it came down to the fisticuffs, man, he couldn't fight for his life. Did you see that, Todd City?
Yeah, it's crazy, but I see this.
yeah, man. Yeah. He had another incident where he was somewhere and he was wrestling somebody, and he ended up like falling all over the place because he couldn't breathe. All the big muscle guy, but had no. I mean, it was pretty pitiful, but yeah.
No conditioning. No
pitiful.
conditioning.
Pitiful.
Wait, why was Rob hit?
Mayonnaise.
Yeah. He does hang out with old boy over there. What's Reg the bad guy? So
you want to resurrect him? Resurrect him. Bring him back.
Yeah.
I
mean, he's always been around, so I'm not sure.
Okay, We bring it back, but there's one other I think we had to eliminate. So we'll leave, we'll leave the other one 6 feet south, and we'll keep it moving.
Okay. All right. Let me get to the next article.
I'm glad you popped up on Fantastic Panel, bro. I had got a headache, bro. I had to get out of there, bro.
Bro, I got a headache right now. Yeah, I gotta chop it up with the beginning. I feel like doing another live stream just as a response to all that stuff, man, because I don't think we're able to really make that much traction over there. So, all right, this next one is from PressTV.com. Russia downed American drone in Libya last month. U.S. Army. Yeah, so in a statement released on November 22nd, the U.S. African Command, AFRICOM, said it had lost a remotely piloted aircraft, RPA, over Tripoli the previous day during what it called Operation to assess the ongoing security situation and monitor violent extremist activities. It did not give a reason for the drone's loss, noting that the incident was under investigation. On Saturday, General Stephen Townsend, head of the U.S. Africa Command, AFRICOM, said he believed the operators of the air defenses didn't know it was a U.S. remotely piloted aircraft when they fired on it. But they certainly know who it belongs to now, and they are refusing to return it. They say they don't know where it is, but I'm not buying it, he told Reuters. Townsend also pointed the finger at Russia over latest chaos in Tripoli, saying this highlights the malign influence of Russian mercenaries acting to influence the outcome of the civil war in Libya, who also directly responsible for the recent and sharp increase in fighting, casualties, and destruction around Tripoli. Libya has been torn apart by violence between rival armed groups since 2011, when a NATO-backed uprising toppled and killed longtime dictator Muammar Gaddafi. In April, the Eastern-based Libyan National Army force, led by renegade General Khalifa Haftar, launched an offensive for control over the capital and has since been battling forces aligned with the Tripoli-based Government of National Accord, GNA. Also on Saturday, AFRICOM spokesman, Air Force Colonel Chris Kahns, said the U.S. assessment had concluded that either Russian private military contractors or the LNA had been operating the air defenses at the time the American drone was lost. Washington, he added, believed the air defense operators had fired on the U.S. aircraft after mistaking it for an opposition drone. U.S. media reports have recently alleged that mercenaries employed by the Wagner Group, the Kremlin-linked private company, have been deployed to Libya to fight on the side of Haftar, a claim strongly rejected by Moscow. On November 7th, Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Rybakov categorically dismissed the media reports. This isn't the first time that American media spread all sorts of tall tales, malicious rumors, and fabrications. He said, "We're acting on the interests of Libyan conflict settlement. We support the appropriate efforts to achieve this, including through the UN. We're in dialogue with those who, in one way or another, influence this situation." So I suspect there's a lot of players on the ground in Libya. I mean, for those who don't understand what's going on, you have the Turks there, you have the Qataris there, you have the Emiratis, UAE, you have Saudi Arabia on the ground, you have U.S. contractors there from Academy. I think they used to be called Blackwater. You have the Chinese there. You have the Russians there. Libya is a pretty crowded country right now with these different military forces on the ground. You have the Italians there as well. I think they're in. I think they're Coast Guard and whatnot are over there as well. So Egypt is at the border. You have a lot of. I think you have the Tunisian government and the Algerian government also standing by, watching all this stuff going on at the border. So The French are there. There's a whole lot of militaries on the ground that, when things can go really bad, it's a bad neighborhood.
Call it a bad neighborhood.
It is.
Yeah, it's a pretty crowded place. He's absolutely right about that. And how that's why I'm very concerned. It'd be very interesting to see Gaddafi's son, if he can become president in that country and take over, and how he's going to run that with all of these different competing interests, and really having a big worry, because their big worry is that, Libya could come back and re-anneal. They have a lot of oil and everything else like that. If they could re-anneal and come back, it's a very strong nation. Will they continue on with what Dad was trying to do? And it's a big issue. It's a big issue. I know what that's all about. And
going with a situation like that, how is the airspace regulated?
How is the airspace, you're saying?
Yeah, how's it?
It's a no-fly zone, basically.
Yeah.
Whoever has the most firepower controls the airspace. So.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I don't.
PMCs in the area, man.
Yeah.
Dude, anything could pop off at any given nah.
At any given time.
No, man, because the Qataris are there because they're supporting their own parties on the ground. You have the Emiratis there because they're supporting Haftar, and as well as the Turks are there because they want access to the oil and the gas that's inside Libya, and they're only a straight shot across the water. Let me bring up an image of this so that people who are listening to this are in full context of what we're saying. See if I can find an image of it. Just give me a few seconds. Oh, here it is right here. Okay, here we go. All right, this is an image of what the Turks are planning to do with Libya. So what they've done is they've tried to cut off, or they've tried to demarc the dotted lines in the Mediterranean Sea to create a special economic zone between Libya and Turkey, so that Libya would supply energy to Turkey, and Turkey would supply other manufacturing goods to Libya, to the continent of Africa. That's a part of their big foreign policy, which is why they needed that air defense system, right? So that's why they needed the S-400. Without the S-400, they would not be able to achieve something like this, because Turkey's weak spot is, militarily speaking, is their lack of air defense. And because Turkey also needs energy, because there's no longer are they going to get the pipeline that was supposed to go through Syria into Turkey to supply them with gas from Qatar. That's not going to happen. So this is plan B. And so because of that, when we talk about militaries being on the ground, the Turks are heavily involved in Libya. Egypt has a vested interest in Libya. The French have a vested interest in Libya because they want to control it. Also, Greece is saying this is a part, this dotted line of Derna to Marmaris actually represents their interests as well, because it crosses into their territory, which is Crete, the island of Crete. So the point that I'm trying to make here is that Libya is a very, very crowded and very dangerous neighborhood. There's too many militaries in there. there's too many guns and there's too many volatile temperaments on the ground. So we talk about World War III, but there is a mini World War III going on inside Libya right now, and Syria, for that matter. So we know that this is Syria's economic empowerment zone right here, EEZ. Lebanon's EEZ as well, Lebanon's economic empowerment zone. Israel's EEZ, which is, and this is important that people understand this as well. The reason why they need to get rid of the Palestinians so they can complete this sort of project. You cannot complete this project unless you can take all of the land, right? And that's why there's a blockade on Gaza, because a lot of that EE zone actually would belong to the Palestinians. And they know this. And so that's why Netanyahu is trying to maintain his position in office. This is my observation, trying to maintain his position in office, and he's leaning on Trump to do so because he needs to complete this project. If he cannot complete this project, if Israel cannot complete this project, they are screwed for the next 100 years. They won't even survive the next 50 years. If that's the case, they will collapse as a state. So that's why we talk about this being a dangerous neighborhood. LNG stands for liquid natural gas. There's a whole lot of liquid natural gas inside the Mediterranean, and everybody wants access to it, including the Zionists. So.
You think it's natural gas over there close to Libya, but they just don't have no way to do it, or is it just not?
No, there's natural gas in all the Mediterranean, most of it.
Okay.
The problem is whose neighborhood is it in? That's why these dotted lines exist, right? You don't want to cross into someone's dotted lines, special economic zones, because you'll start a war like that. And that's why Greece is looking at Turkey's side eye saying, your plan crosses over into my island's territory, which is a part of our special economic zone all through here.
Oh, okay.
If you start drilling for oil or gas and or you start importing gas from Libya and oil from Libya, then we have no choice but to send our Navy down there to meet you head on. And now you have a conflict between two NATO powers. Greece is a NATO ally or partner, and so is Turkey. So that's why Turkey is rushing to get that air defense system in place.
Okay, what's the American interest in this?
America needs to control everything in the world, right?
Okay, that's it.
Yeah. Big problems, man. Big problems. A lot of people don't know that Gaddafi was the only leader to actually, at least in our time, to actually apologize for slavery and to give reparations. No one else has done that, to my knowledge. He gave them a whole city to themselves, and they were actually living pretty comfortably over there until old girl, Secretary of State, came in and knocked them down, helped knock them down, man, and had those people on the run, and slaughtered those people. The Tuareg. All right, let me get to yeah, that's right, Bullet Two-Tone. He protected the black people there. He protected black people around the world. So anybody who wanted to come to Libya and get their mind right and get their life right, had free access to the country. A lot of people don't know that. All right, this one is from Guardian.com. Sick of corruption, Haiti looks back to its revolutionary hero for hope. On the walls across Haiti's capital, Port-au-Prince, a stenciled image can be found depicting a figure in a Napoleonic-era cocked hat and military frock coat It emerged amid the country's long-running political and security crisis that began last year. The man portrayed is Jean-Jacques Dessalines, Emperor Jacques I of Haiti, the rebel general who defeated French forces at the Battle of Readiness to found the state of Haiti in 1804. And it is not only in graffiti that Dessalines' 2-century-old legacy has been seen in the recent months of political turmoil that has gripped the country. At the mass street protests that have fled intermittently throughout this year against the government of President Jovenel Moise, roiled by allegations of a multi-billion-dollar corruption scandal, Haitians have appeared in the streets dressed as Dessalines, not least during the huge demonstrations on 17th of October that coincide with the National Day of marking the anniversary of his assassination in 1806. The commemoration saw Moise forced to mark the usually public events at the National Pantheon Museum in private as hundreds of armed police forces closed down the surrounding area. Protesters demanding his resignation were gathered nearby. But above all, it is in the national conversation around the continuing crisis that the spirit of Dessalines has been most starkly in evidence. In the almost endless and sometimes heated exchanges on the country's news and talk radio stations, discussion will inevitably turn to the model Dessalines, the ideal Dessalines model, a nostalgic idea of the different path Haiti might have taken for his assassination. The reality is that the current evocation of Dessalines is one that speaks to Haiti's myriad of social woes and is a powerful critique of the failure of its political system over generations and centuries through dictatorship, chronic inequality, and grinding poverty. And the intricability of Haiti's current crisis, which has rumbled on since Moise's contested election 2 years ago, appears custom made for an appeal to almost mythological figure amid widespread popular distrust of the political elite, implicated in the loss of about $2 billion to corruption in a controversial scheme to buy cheap energy on credit from Venezuela, a deal that would free up funds for social development. The security forces in Moise's government have responded by firing on demonstrators, even as he refused to repeatedly resign. Opposition figures, too, have been implicated in political violence, often involving the arming of criminal gangs, some touched by the same scandal as Moise. All of this has elevated the status of a figure from a distant past who appears untainted by the current failure of Haiti's political system. So this is just a geographical map or graphical map of Haiti as an island in the Caribbean. I know a lot of people think that Jamaica is this big, massive place and whatnot, but Haiti is actually sizably is actually much bigger. I think because and they have more people in it as well, but they economically they are in dire straits. Cuba played an instrumental role in working with Haiti as well as Jamaica. Jamaica actually has a communist party, if I remember correctly. But I think that the U.S. government had overthrown one of their leaders who was actually a communist in the 1970s. They never really recovered from that. U.S. is very ruthless in who they decide is going to run their country.
Haiti is held out from a lot of the control mechanisms that the U.S. use against other countries.
Say that one more time.
I don't think they have it. They don't have a central bank. I don't even think they have a central bank there.
I think they do have a Haitian central bank. I don't think there's anything in it though. Yeah,
I think I seen they had like a Haitian Republic Bank or something like that.
yeah. That I mean, every country has a central bank. It's just a matter of because that's who prints the money.
Right.
Central banks is what print money. But yeah, the Haitians going to need a lot more than Dessalines to get them out of this situation, man. Very interesting country with a lot of rich history, and it's unfortunate that you have mayonnaise people who want to make sure that it is suppressed and you can't do anything.
Yeah, when I heard about all the corruption that was going down, I seen how Hillary Clinton and them hands was all over there. I didn't believe it at first. I didn't believe it at first.
That's how they funded the campaign, right, for the Clinton Foundation. They got the money from there, pumped it in there, and ran their campaign against Trump.
Yeah, man, that's wild, man.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of corruption now. It's not just her; it's Jeb Bush. The Bushes are down there as well.
Right.
Marco Rubio got his grumpy little paws on it as well.
See, and the locals don't seem to be too far out of the loop because, like I said, they told my partner, they was like, man, that land is in Chelsea Clinton's name.
Yeah. Yeah, the U.S. rewrote the rules in the 1920s or I think the 1930s. The Constitution, they rewrote the Constitution so that the rest of their pale-skinned people can come in there and take over the land, and that's what happened. And that's why Haiti doesn't have any trees. A lot of the trees that were there were actually chopped down to build houses in the United States. Ruthless, man. They're very ruthless. All right, let me get to this next article. This one is from Reuters.com. Russia plans to set up Arctic air defense dome with S-400 missiles. Russia plans to establish an air defense dome across its polar region by arming all of its northern fleet Arctic divisions with S-400 missile batteries, a Russian naval commander said on Monday. Russia has been stepping up its military presence in the Arctic, building new infrastructure and overhauling its ports as it vies for dominance in a region with huge untapped mineral wealth and warmer climate cycles. Other countries have also scrambled to boost their Arctic presence, stoking fears of an intensifying geopolitical rivalry. In May, Washington accused Russia of aggressive behavior in the polar region and said China's actions must be watched closely. Must be watched closely. Russia in September deployed its S-400 air defense system to the Novaya Zemlya in the far north, and the commander of Russia's Northern Fleet said on Monday that similar deployments would be made across the region. The plan is for all our Arctic divisions to be supplied with such complexes in the coming years. There will effectively be an air defense dome created over the Russian part of the Arctic. This means that the Arctic will be protected from any kind of enemy aerial attack, whether from planes, cruise, or ballistic missiles, Moisevy said in an interview with the Russian Defense Ministry's Zazia TV. So let me pull up the image so that some people who are watching this understand what we're talking about here. We got King Sigma on the panel as well. Peace and strength to you, my brother. What's going on?
What's up, Sigma? Solange got him.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, brother. What's going on?
Okay. Yeah. Thanks for having me on, man. Oh, I'm just coming, tune in, catch up on some geopolitics, man.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no doubt, man. No doubt. Let me pull up the image because I think that it's very relevant to actually have this discussion. Where's the image? All right, I think this is it right here. All right, this image right here is one of the best representations I can find right now on Russia's strategic military placement in the Arctic and the North Pole. Russia pretty much controls 73% of the North Pole. I think the Canadians have another piece of it as well, but the Canadians don't have an effective piece of it. All the areas that Russia occupy actually have all the mineral resources, while the Canadians don't have any icebreakers to actually forge their way up there. The Russians have the most amount of icebreakers, including nuclear icebreakers. So they had the ability years ago, 20, 30 years ago, to actually get their way up there. The Americans don't have it either. They only recently came out with a icebreaker, and from what I heard, that icebreaker is not all that effective in comparison to what the Russians have. What's happening now because of climate change is that these straits around the North Pole, the ice has been melting. The icebergs have been melting and has opened up a path for shipping. And so the Chinese and the Russians have been working together to cut 3 weeks time to a month. They can cut a whole 4 weeks out for shipping goods from China up through the North Pole and into Europe. So this is very strategic and important. That's why these articles are coming out about what the Russians are doing up there at the North Pole, and making this heavily defended. Even according to this article, they're talking about putting multiple batteries of S-400 air defense systems. There's nothing else that you could really do. It's not like you're going to send Abrams tanks up to the North Pole. That's just not going to happen. You have to land those things there first. And the Americans, from my understanding, don't have the ability to even land in the territories where Russia has secured. By the time those tanks, open up from those landing ships, they'll be decimated by the time they even touch down. So the only way you can really get in is through paratroopers. And that's why, Russia has those air defense systems up in place. They'll shoot down all those planes regardless of who's inside of them.
Hey, Mike, when you say icebreakers, is that like the equivalent to like fracking or something?
Icebreaker is a ship that has instruments on there to crack ice. Icebergs. They can break. You have to remember that an iceberg can be the size of a state. They have some icebergs that are about the size of Manhattan.
Dang.
I mean, I know the hood way would be to to send a missile up there and just break the ice that way, but you really can't do that. Those things are massive in size, so that's why they have these icebreakers. And Russia is the only ones that have invested heavily into icebreakers over the years. They have probably about 24 icebreakers. I think the Americans only have about 2. And the Chinese just built their first icebreaker, I think, about a month or so ago.
Okay. Yeah, I just heard icebreaker to get to like some minerals or something.
No, the icebreaker is to forge a path, because you don't want to end up like the Titanic, right? So that's what took out the Titanic, was an iceberg.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So the Russians have all of this pretty much covered. Obviously, the Americans do have a base on the opposite side, but that's not where all the minerals are. All the minerals are right on this side. Yeah, there's nothing on this side. There's nothing over here. I mean, there's some fracking going on in Canada, but there's nothing that's effective. I mean, you can only frack for so long before you start poisoning the ground anyways.
Right.
All right, let me get to this next article. All right, that's a repeat article. Let me jump to the next one. All right, this one is from globaltimes.cn. NATO should change approach to China and Russia. On April 4th, 1949, 12 Western countries founded NATO to create a defense structure capable of containing the military might of the Soviet Union. The Warsaw Pact took shape just 6 years later after revitalizing the then Soviet leader Joseph Stalin's idea to build a buffer space beyond the huge Somatic plain to impede any other possible attempt of invasion after World War II. 70 years later, the Soviet Union does not exist anymore, but NATO is still there and counts 29 member countries waiting for another one, North Macedonia, that is complete in its accession process. In the recent London summit, NATO Secretary Jens Stoltenberg said, "This is the 5th year of rising defense investment since European allies and Canada have added $130 billion, according to the forecast. By the end of 2024, that figure will rise to $400 billion. This is unprecedented," Stoltenberg added. "And it's making NATO stronger, noting our meeting has once again demonstrated that NATO remains the only place where Europe and North America discuss, decide, and act every day together on strategic issues that concern our shared security. Other important issues the London summit face are to enhance the protection of our energy infrastructure, how to ensure our technological edge in the face of emerging and disruptive technologies, and to step up our response to hybrid threats. But because of our skirmishes among NATO leaders, something did not work. Western countries seem to be divided like never before. Until now, the London Final Joint Declaration is composed of just 9 points against the 139 points in the Warsaw Declaration in 2016 or the 79 points in the Brussels Declaration in 2018. This confirms a fissure in the transatlantic relationship. During a speech on the defense in 2017, French President Emmanuel Macron argued, in the area of defense, our aim needs to be ensuring Europe's autonomous operating capabilities in complement to NATO. Last year, German Chancellor Angela Merkel said that it is no longer such that the United States simply protects us, but Europe must take its destiny in its own hands. That's a task of the future. Many observers believe EU-US tensions have emerged because of Trump's America First policy, but I think it has clearly deeper roots. The alliance expansion had already created a lot of problems, starting in the Central and Eastern Europe from the mid-1990s to the mid-2000s. Meanwhile, a long commitment in counterterrorism activities had begun in South and West Asia following U.S. military operation in Afghanistan and Iraq, with the International Security Assistance Force in 2001 and the NATO training mission Iraq in 2004, trying to support the newly formed local governments against Islamist terrorism and extremism. Nevertheless, after the Libyan and Syrian wars triggered by Arab Spring uprising, the image of US and NATO started to change even in the West. For at least 3 years, the US, Canada, and their main European allies, especially France, have supported extremist sectarian Sunni rebel troops directly in Libya and their proxies in Syria. Salafists and Wahhabis are among them on the same front against Gaddafi and Assad, and Western support to these rebels helped them, like the old US built FIM-92 Stinger missiles and bunkers helped Taliban militants against NATO 20 years after the Soviet-Afghan War. This schizophrenic geopolitics has shown the limits of the doctrine that more and more clearly seems to put the containment of Russia, China, and Iran before the security of Western citizens. Many doubts and questions have been raised in the past. Was the auspicious war in Iraq, a trial to bring pressure on Iran and Syria? Has the rhetoric on human rights in Bosnia, Chechnya, and Kosovo been exploited to consolidate a new green connection among extremist sectarian Sunni militant groups in the Eurasian subcontinent? Is something similar happening in the Chinese autonomous region of Xinjiang, where Beijing has been unfairly blamed for repressing and discriminating against local Muslim communities? Since 2015, terror attacks in Europe have shown that security is not a joke, and some Western liberal lobbies or think tanks need to understand that what they are doing is wishful thinking. The double standards on terrorism and the hypocrisy over a utopian borderless society must end. If NATO will really continue to change as the world changes, as Stoltenberg argues, Western leaders should completely change their approach toward Russia and China, starting to consolidate defense. Starting to consolidate defense cooperation with them and their allies in Shanghai Cooperation Organization. So, NATO is a hammer looking for a nail. The only problem is China and Russia together are not just nails, they're 10 penny nails. You're gonna need a bigger hammer to go against that. See if anybody else is trying to join us.
NATO, I have a question here from a standpoint of anybody else's views, but is NATO even relevant today? Do we even need NATO? Because NATO was really designed really to contain the kind of the Russian or let's say the Soviet threat during the Cold War. That's what it was really about. You know, people like George Kennan, who wrote the X article and so forth, these guys really came forward to really help to push this and really help to create it. Okay, let's just put it like that. And our government and other nations that we more or less control kind of came under a certain banner to help to contain the Soviet threat. Now we have the Sino-Russo type of link up that's going on in the Middle East and all over. We really don't have, I don't know, I would say from a diplomatic perspective, we really haven't really played that job that well, especially we've seen with Trump coming in here and just kind of trying to run a hard game that I don't think is really going to work that well. I kind of liked a little bit more what Obama was doing with respect to Iran and so forth, with the, with some of the various trade agreements and so forth that we were trying to work through. Is NATO really useful? I mean, do we really need it? I mean, it's just a military arm right now of the United States, and I don't know how effective it really is. I have a lot of questions about the efficacy and the need of NATO. I don't know what they're really doing. In fact, if anything, they've started more wars and helped to bring a lot of stuff back. So, or cut a lot of stuff back. I'm questioning its usefulness in this situation and in everything else. That's kind of how I'm looking at it.
Yeah, see, you're right about NATO's original purpose. And I think BGS in the chat is kind of hitting the nail on the head that, NATO's purpose was to contain the Soviets and keep Germany, France, and UK from fighting. It's really a military organization, a global military organization now. It even challenges that of the UN, right? So they're in search of a purpose. Now they're talking about adding Colombia and Brazil to NATO. Do they not realize, if you look at a map, Colombia and Brazil and South America, man, they're nowhere near the Northern Atlantic, right? So now it's become a white man's big gang, right? A big gang of white men with guns. And that's really what it's come down to.
I mean, Brazil and them, they already sided for the most part, huh?
For right now, we don't know how far they're going to really take it, right? You have to keep in mind that Brazil also just got a new aircraft carrier. I think it's the old HMS from the British. So they have two aircraft carriers now. Usually if you have an aircraft carrier, you're kind of using that to project power. They have some broader ambitions later on within the coming decade. So they foresee something happening as well. But the Americans, or I shouldn't say the Americans, but NATO, for all intents and purposes, is a white gang. They don't, many people have argued, well, if NATO is the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, why not include Egypt? Why not include Morocco? Why not include Nigeria, right? It was never about including non-European or non-pale-skinned people. It was really just about including pale-skinned people. Putin asked about 20 years ago, or 10 years ago, if NATO's all about security, then why not let the Russians join NATO then? And they said no. So they already have their ambitions, and that's to create this sort of global military bloc over everyone else. And China and Russia has figured this out a long time ago, that you need something like the Shanghai Cooperation Organization.
Yeah. I mean, and plus I'm looking at stuff like, the war in Cyprus between Turkey and Greece, really, back in '74. Mm-hmm. And these were two NATO countries that actually went to war. We've seen a lot. The whole Suez situation back in '56. We can look at a lot of things, over history and try to, and get a good idea as to really the efficacy of NATO and what do they really mean. And I see some people in the chat, I think it was BGS, said NATO was dead and so forth. And I'm like, yeah, it might, I think we could do better by disbanding it. I don't see them as being effective at all. Like you said, a gang of American cronies, if you will, trying to project force around the world. And I don't know if this is really the best thing we need to have right now. And as I said, I've mentioned a couple incidences, especially not only the Cyprus War, '74, but all that happened in Libya, that we just saw a few years back, and that was a NATO-backed initiative, and so it's not looking live like that anymore. So I question its actual purpose. It should be.
Yeah, I didn't even know that about Brazil, Mike. I didn't even know that, man. I thought they was all the way running with Russia.
No. Brazil and Colombia, if you look at their oligarchs, man, they are very much tied in with the Europeans. So,
it's about the money. It's money. The oligarchs tied in with the money. It's money.
And plus they have an ideology as well they're trying to uphold, right?
Right.
You love to keep the melanated Brazilians down, which is unfortunate, but that's how they run the game down there. And NATO is trying to become a global military force where they can project power. Now they're talking about refocusing their efforts off Russia and putting it on China. That's what Emmanuel Macron said at the NATO summit in London. We shouldn't be focused too much on Russia. Let's focus on China. Are you kidding me? Like that's crazy. That's crazy talk. If you take China out right now, everything in this world economically is going to collapse on its head. It's not going to be sustainable.
Yeah. It's just like I said, this whole NATO thing now. I'm just looking at this like real side. I mean, I've always looked at it sideways. Mm-hmm. And I'm looking at it more sideways than ever.
You have to. Yeah, you would have to. NATO's biggest objective at this point is to go into Africa, go into the continent.
They already did. That was the big move. That was Libya.
Occupy it.
Yeah, that was Libya. That was the first move. And then that opened the door for literally the Chinese and the Russians to kind of get in there. And well, the Russia was always there, but China, definitely was able to gain a bigger foothold, and didn't, with these guys, it was tried to destabilize the continent, but yet opened up, opportunities for others. It's just, like I said, this NATO thing is bad news. I believe we need to just get rid of it. I'm done. I'm done.
Get that when Gaddafi, before Gaddafi and Chavez died, they talk about creating SATO, which is the South Atlantic Treaty Organization.
That's right.
That responds to NATO. You take all of the African countries and all of the Latin American countries and create a military bloc.
Hey, Mike, in another panel we had, we was talking about AFRICOM being put in Germany.
Yep, Stuttgart.
At Stuttgart, right? What was the purpose of AFRICOM? Like, why did it even need to be an AFRICOM?
They didn't. Well, they have CENTCOM, SOCOM, and the other branch that covers the Southeast Asia. And so because of that, they did not have a plan for Africa.
Okay.
They know they weren't going to let Africa get up on its feet. It was just, how do you come up with a military strategy for the continent? How do you occupy a continent that has 1.2 billion people, and by 2050 is projected to have at least 1.9 to 2 billion people? How do you do that? So you have to come up with a security framework for monitoring the continent, which is what AFRICOM does. The article we read earlier was a drone from AFRICOM, right? So AFRICOM's purpose is to monitor the continent militarily for the United States.
And they already taking L's.
Well, they're not in a real effective military force, right? They can't go in and actually assert themselves in the same way that other military forces can, something like NATO, right? They don't really have that sort of they don't have those sort of resources. They do mostly monitoring. So,
what I find interesting, I saw BGS. I think it just posted in the comment section. AFRICOM was there to counter China, and look how effective that was. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I mean, it's just
no. AFRICOM's job is to monitor. They can't actually go in and militarily defeat, the PLA. They just don't have resources.
Yeah, exactly.
But resources. Their job is to monitor, and that's it. Now, what possibly is going to happen is you're going to see some of these, death squads and paid mercenaries going in and destroy all the Chinese infrastructure, all the bridges and railroads and Russian, energy grids and stuff like that, going in and break up all of those sort of initiatives that have been that was started by them and force them to bankrupt themselves, right? So that's what they're looking at, and so that's where the battle is going to come down for dominance on the continent between the United States and the Europeans and the mostly members of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Russia has major investments in the continent. China has major investments in the continent. Japan has major investments in the continent. South Korea does as well. India is actually a sleeper for the continent. They have some, a couple $1 billion in investment into the continent between Kenya, with pharmaceuticals and energy as well. So they get oil from the continent, then they reprocess it back in India. Turkey has major investments in the continent. It's a very tight playground, man. At least from a nation state perspective. So it's going to get real crowded really quickly, and we don't really know how this is going to work out. We did cover an article last year that the Chinese invited all 54 military heads of state from the continent to China to sign a declaration of military to military agreement that if China is attacked, that these countries must come to the defense of China.
Yeah,
this is crazy.
Yeah. Well, this is going to be kind of interesting. I am somewhat familiar with the ungoverned space doctrine, BGS, but when we're talking about how is AFRICOM really going to be they were a monitoring, more of a monitoring game. How were they going to really put a check on China, if not being able to do that militarily in some ways? I'd like to see how that would be addressed. On the continent. I don't see that happening. But
they wouldn't be able to do it. I mean, the French The French can't do it now, so why would African be able to do it, right? Not saying that BGS is wrong. I'm saying the amount of resources that you would have to commit to the continent, it's just not, it's not there, right? You just don't have it. We just talked about seven aircraft carriers that are sitting in loading docks, not functioning. You got F-35 fighter jets that are not working. The USS Zumwalt not functioning. Out of 32 warships, only 4 of them were actually built, not working. It's just one of those things. I don't think that they have all the intentions on going into the continent in the same way they went into Iraq and they went into Afghanistan and occupy. I don't think that's going to be able to work for them. Africa is a different playground from a military standpoint. I don't see them actually occupying it, but I see them destroying all the infrastructure as much as possible.
Yeah, I mean, and I think a great example of what really happened is we could take a look at Libya once again. So I don't know. Lot of big issues there, and as I said, AFRICOM. He said it's too late for them. They're basically finished. NATO, in my view, is just the last kind of hammer they're going to try to use, and I just think NATO is friggin' useless. And I think we could go back on being a little smarter with respect to working out some good deals, some good trade deals, and some some good there's better negotiations between the nations there. I think would work a lot better without some of this crap that these guys are looking to pull.
Yeah. Let me get to this next article from the EurasianTimes.com. Trump could visit Moscow for Victory Day parade celebrations, Russian foreign minister. During their meeting on the sidelines of the G20 summit in Japan this June, President Putin invited President Trump to next year's celebrations marking the Victory Day in Moscow on May 9th, Lavrov stated. Today, I confirm this invitation upon the president's orders. President Trump is now considering it. We hope that if there will be an opportunity of this kind, then naturally there can be a full format bilateral conversation, Lavrov added. Earlier, Russian President Vladimir Putin had stated that he hoped his U.S. counterpart Donald Trump would come to Russia to mark Victory Day as Moscow was ready for talks with Washington. Putin said it would be the right thing for Trump to attend a commemorative event in Moscow to mark the 75th anniversary of victory in World War II, even as the U.S. president is campaigning for re-election. Putin presides over an annual parade on May 9th to commemorate the Soviet Union's victory over Nazi Germany and uses the occasion to display Russian sophisticated military hardware. Earlier reports said Russia had also sent invitations to British Prime Minister Boris Johnson, the leaders of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization members countries, and to European leaders. It's a shame that in American textbooks, in their academic books, they tell the story that the Americans won World War II and they single-handedly defeated the Nazis, and it's
total bull crap.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, man.
In fact, when you really look at the Second World War, we secured a lot of the British Empire's assets and turn those into ours, and in the East and moving towards the West, we let the Russians fight that, and they were the ones who primarily won the war on the European continent. I mean, it's a fact. I know a lot of people don't want to deal with that, but that's a fact.
The Russians faced down 100 divisions of the German military.
Sure did.
They faced out 10.
And they got close. I mean, they before they were do it, they were 25 miles outside of Moscow. Mm-hmm. The Germans, and then they got rolled all the way back, and folks don't want to look at that, but it's reality. Anyway.
If Trump goes to this parade, bro, it's gonna be so much triggering going down.
Yeah, because it's based on racism. There's this
exactly correct.
Yeah, it is based on this idea that ideal that Russians are inferior to white Americans, and the Russians don't build anything, they don't do anything. You know, they're just a bunch of drunks drinking stoical vodka and stuff like that, and beating their wives. You know, there's a lot of misconceptions based, you know, their foreign policy is really based on racism. And Americans eat it up, man, because they themselves have internalized the repugnant ideas of race and class and things of that nature.
Yeah, and American exceptionalism.
Yeah. Yeah.
Among other things.
Yeah, let me get this next one from the rand.com. Frexit. Is France hurling toward exiting the EU? France is by no means calming down. There is a major underlying problem in France, which is rising to the surface in direct confrontation with the government and Macron's ambition to lead Europe. Macron's confrontation with Trump over NATO is a reflection of a historical posture of the French government that has resented both Germany and the United States. Macron has said the Atlantic Alliance can only be restored in one way, through restoring the unity of Europe. The 12 founding members set up a headquarters together for the first time in London in 1950. NATO headquarters were located at 13 Belgrade Square. The last meeting to be held in London before the move to Paris was on April 1st, 1952, which coincided with NATO's third anniversary. NATO was forced to move its headquarters from Paris, France, following the French withdrawal from NATO, which then moved to Brussels in 1967. Macron did not advocate that France should pull out of NATO, as was the case under President de Gaulle. Indeed, de Gaulle did withdraw France from NATO's military structure in 1966, yet it remained an ally. Macron has been also pushing for a European army. Clearly, Macron's agenda has been to federalize Europe, and that is clashing with the people. He is not a proponent in having the US a major part of NATO, according to reliable sources. Well, there you have it. If France can't get their way, this is what they do. They pout. You know, the French, you know, what they did to Haiti, you know, they tried to occupy it. They tried to go into Mexico, if I remember correctly, and that's how you got Cinco de Mayo, which is the defeat of the French, if I remember correctly. Am I wrong about that, Nico?
Oh, you say something, Mike? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Hello? What'd you say?
Yeah, I was saying that. I forget what I'm saying now, man.
You said something about Cinco de Mayo.
No,
I was saying the French been crying. They cry every time they don't get their way.
Yeah, when the French can't get their way, in terms of leadership, man, they tend to pout and you know,
cry like 9-month-old babies, man.
Yeah, because remember Napoleon, you know, he's a bit of a baby himself, not just because of his height, but because of his attitude. If you think about what the French did to the Mexicans, you know, and the Mexicans defeated them and not paying back their source, the wealth that the French had came to collect. You know, they call that a holiday, Cinco de Mayo. You know, I always find it interesting that they celebrate the Mexicans' defeat of the French, but they don't celebrate the defeat of the French by the Haitians.
Well, I think the Haitians really should have set that up themselves, really, in a big way. But as I said, I think the reparations and all that crap came in after and put a big damper on that. You know, just it was after the victory. It was after the victory and all that where the Haitians lost. The Haitians won the war, but lost. They won the battle of the island, but they lost the war at the end through through, I believe, acceding to a lot of those demands, which I don't believe they ever should have. That's just my take on it. There'll be others who will have what others to say, but that's my you know, it's not the Mexicans' job is to celebrate that. It's the Haitians' job. Yeah,
I always wondered why I never really got that much support on the ground. You know, I mean, you see people in corporate offices, they celebrate Cinco de Mayo. I'm scratching my head. I'm saying, does anybody remember the Haitian Revolution? But that's not really told in history books. In Boston public schools, they don't teach that. You'll never know that that Haiti was even occupied. They purposely skirt that information. So at least in the public school system.
I mean, it's so bad they don't even tell you that literally the Louisiana Purchase, that you had that added, over 20% of landmass to this country without being fired, without a shot being fired, gave it, gave the president of the United States at the time all the credit for making that move. But they don't talk about the fact that it was the Haitians that made that happen. And that was the first literal death knell of slavery in the hemisphere. They don't tell you about that. That is directly related to the Haitian Revolution. They never link those up. They never link those two powerful events up. They never link it up. So Louisiana and these countries and these parts of the country that we have right here wouldn't have been here if it wasn't for Haitians, for their war against the French. Wouldn't have been here. We never had it. And their victory.
Yeah,
never happened.
We got Black Gnostics on the panel, man. What's going on, man?
Hey, folks, what's going on?
BGS, what's up, baby?
Give us some thoughts, please.
For me, looking at the Haitian Revolution over the past year or so, I said, okay, it's really, really interesting about what went down, how it went down, and what caused the victory. It's a very unique circumstance. Which is probably why you've never seen a full-scale war in sub-Saharan Africa or Latin America by white people.
Yeah, that's a good point, and
they don't survive very well. Yeah,
that's a great point you bring. That's a ferocious point because it's true, and that's why they use politics and separated lands and peoples and use all different kind of crap to keep
proxies.
That
Yeah, they use proxies.
And Gerald Horn and some others have actually spoken on this.
Yeah, if you look at even King Leopold, vicious is. So I went back. I said, let me just look at the photographs of King Leopold's army. 90% African.
That's right. Oh, you talking right now, fam.
Yeah, no, that's what I don't. I didn't even put up the video because I didn't want to. I didn't want that kind of smoke.
No.
I didn't want that kind of smoke, man. I said I'll leave that one.
This is well known. Others here, you have General Blackjack Pershing, who was part of our military, who we call him Blackjack because the only thing he wanted was black soldiers who knew it. Said, listen, if you're gonna go in the South, you're gonna try to do this thing. You got to play this thing a certain way. The black man's he's a natural fighting son of a bitch. You guys have to deal with it differently.
Because there's only a couple of times where they tried those tropical wars. I mean where those kind of tropical wars in neither Latin America or sub-Saharan, and well, not even sub-Saharan, but Latin America. Like Haitian was one, and the Mexican-American War was the other, where they bombarded. They went all the way down to Mexico City. And the only reason they didn't take the whole country of Mexico because white people started getting sick and dying, and they went all the way back up to the Rio Grande. Because like I said, they were bombarding Mexico City. They had basically defeated Mexico City until the soldiers started getting sick. Same thing with the Haitian Revolution. There was no way. I said, how does a little country, almost unarmed black slaves actually, go up against right then was the most powerful army on the planet, which is Napoleon's army, which actually kicked ass all through Europe and right up into Russia. I said, then I started looking at, okay. I said, they get sick. They can't fight in that weather.
Yeah, they can't, and plus they were outnumbered. They were outnumbered, and the Africans were using very good tactics in which to fight them.
It's simple. They land. You run up into the hills. You wait a month or two till they get sick, and then you come down and attack them.
But they also met a lot of them on the beach and used a very interesting technique that I actually read in Sun Tzu, The Art of War, where you permitted half of the army just to cross. You attacked them at the beachfront, drove them back, and then the other guys that would try to come in, what'd you do? You end up running into them, having them all back up. A lot of
Mhm.
these guys get inundated and drowned.
Yeah, with the, you know what I'm saying?
Very old tactic.
Yeah, one thing is the easiest tack is because initially the landfall, they ran up into the hills. They wait them out and they get sick, and then when they were weakened, they run down and attack them. You send wave after wave, and essentially they give up. They said you can't keep sending troops like this because it's a no-win situation.
That's happening. They won
gave up.
Yeah,
Plus Napoleon was, he had his own troubles in Europe, so he couldn't afford to.
And his problems where in North Africa, the Egyptian wars. He had his camp right there as well.
Yeah.
So a lot of problems.
Yeah, but this is the reason that Brexit was, they were afraid of this because they knew what was going on in with the colonial franc, and they knew what France's GDP is based on. And if the colonial franc goes, so colonial franc starts, ebbing away. You're gonna see the social programs that France is so famous for, because France is one of the most generous socialist countries on the planet. And I used to wonder where did the hell did they get all this money? And what they're sucking this money from someplace else. And once that money starts flowing, and now you get the yellow vests. First it was taxes, gasoline, and now it's pensions because France can't afford to pay it. So now you got all these, even the urban people that are in Paris actually, protesting, putting on yellow vests because now their pensions and their generous benefits are at risk. So they saw that picture of the guillotine. That they know what time it was. Okay, the people aren't happy.
Yeah, when the guillotine starts to show up,
So I'm not surprised, but there was. I wish I could find the sound. I think I do have it somewhere, but I think I got to find a video where a minister of parliament actually said it. He was actually being interviewed, and they said, "What is Brexit about?" He said they thought it was better for the UK to be outside of the EU when it's going through its turmoil, which in other words, they think it might break up, than be inside of it. So that was their reason for leaving or wanting to leave. And like I said, it's Europe is a three-legged stool. If UK goes and if France goes, I don't know if France is going to go or not, but if France is talking about leaving, even mentioned about leaving, guess best, the EU is basically done.
Yeah.
Everybody's standing by and watching what happens with Brexit. How bad is the exit, right? If they're the first ones to leave, then that the rest of the states at the lower end of the totem pole, like the pigs, Portugal, Italy, Greece, and Spain, they're like, we're out of here too. No sense in us sticking around.
Yeah.
Well, people have to remember history. You bring up gold, dollars, and power. What was the first country to challenge the United States? The others, we want to get balanced payments. We want to get those in gold.
That's France. Yeah.
There we go.
And France is the one that forced Nixon off the gold standard.
There we go.
Yeah.
So they
hated they resented NATO, and they hated the dollar in Europe.
That's right.
And they wanted to, and the only reason that at the time there was a Soviet threat, and the only reason that they put up with the dollar is because there was a Soviet threat, and they were afraid of Germany getting back together.
Well, I think all those fears were Germany was, I don't think it was, the Soviets were not, they were calling threat, but the Soviets weren't really as big as a threat as they were trying to say it was. That was overblown. And the frogs, they were nervous because I think they had other ambitions. Like the whole mess up in Algeria and so forth. They hung in there just to try to see if they could keep their empire together. But they would have done a lot better, and I think Europe and many other countries would have done a lot better had they stuck to their own gold standard, and didn't run behind and didn't really run behind the Bretton Woods plan. If
at the time,
if you will,
at the time they had no choice.
But I think it was a military option because as I said, I always looked at that as more, and so does Gavin. Looked at more as a political military kind of.
It was. It was.
Than really a
real
hardcore economic one.
And basically American corporations took advantage of it. So okay, we can, with the dollar, we can go in and buy up companies and put our products in, and it was an advantage for toward American companies.
Sure, absolutely.
Which is a real military-industrial complex.
Well, we thoroughly understand that here. That those who will argue against that, but that's a ridiculous notion. That's exactly what it is. It's really military, and it's military, being kind of run by industry. That's what's that's just this thing really is. It's industry. That's what's creating all of the weapons and so forth. But anyway,
Yeah. Let me get to this last one from the Atlantic Council. Q&A, what do Paris talks mean for the Russia-Ukraine peace process? It's just going to be pretty long. I'm going to go read the captions of it. On December 9th, Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky met his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin for the first time during long-awaited peace talks in Paris. The summit was the first gathering of the Normandy Four, which includes French President Emmanuel Macron and German Chancellor Angela Merkel in over 3 years. While the meeting failed to produce any major breakthroughs, it did result in progress on a number of technical issues and a commitment to continue the Normandy 4 dialogue in spring 2020. What does this mean for the Russia-Ukraine peace process? Paris produced an interesting outcome. The two sides agreed to continue the disengagement process that Zelensky and Putin began months ago, along with further prisoner releases and demining. All these steps can be considered positive confidence-building measures. The sides also agreed on implementing a real-life ceasefire. It is true that incidents of shooting across the ceasefire lines have dropped since late spring. A further drop would surely be a good thing, but there has not been one day without multiple shootings, and Moscow has never treated this issue as a priority. Instead, Russia has regarded constant shooting as a way to maintain pressure on Ukraine. It therefore remains to be seen whether Moscow will actually implement this latest ceasefire. Looking ahead, the summit communique says the parties agreed to implementing Minsk regarding the special status of the occupied territories and incorporated into the Ukrainian legislation the Steinmeier formula as agreed in the Normandy 4 format in the trilateral contract group. It is still not clear what that actually means. For his part, Zelensky says he has not crossed any red lines. This means a Ukrainian rejection of the Kremlin's interpretation of Minsk, which it stipulates that elections in occupied territories take place without the removal of Russian forces and weapons and with the border under Moscow's control. It may well be it may well be that there will be no further escalation of this point so that both sides can interpret it differently. This and the ceasefire question are the crux of the matter, even if they remain unresolved. Further disengagement, demanding prisoner exchanges, and reduced exchange of fire would still represent progress. However, we should not take these things to the bank just yet. If they do materialize, this would suggest Putin is starting to understand his 5.5-year low-intensity war in Ukraine is cutting against Russia and his interests. The Normandy 4 meeting looks like a modest success for President Zelensky. He secured agreement on a series of confidence-building measures. Prisoner exchanges, long-term ceasefire, additional disengagement, zoning, demining, which could reduce the violence and improve conditions for the follow-on negotiations of the many still unresolved issues. Whether Moscow will implement all of these measures remains to be seen. Nevertheless, these agreements came without requiring Zelensky to cross any of the red lines he and his Ukrainian foreign minister, Vadim, laid out before the meeting. No changes to the Ukrainian constitution, no federalization of the Ukrainian state, no elections before withdrawal of foreign troops, and return of the Ukrainian border to Kyiv's control. Indeed, Zelensky was quite forceful at the press conference in holding the line on these points. So fears of capitulation proved to be misplaced. The follow-on negotiations will be difficult. Putin did not show any give on the need to stick to the letter of the Minsk agreements, including return of the border only after elections, and he reaffirmed Moscow's insistence on constitutional changes that would not only make special status for the occupied territories permanent, but could also weaken the entire Ukrainian state. Another noteworthy aspect of Monday's summit was Zelensky's poise in addressing the Russian people directly and unfiltered during the press conference, reminding them that he is looking out for Ukrainians displaced from the occupied Donbass, and not just given in the occupied territories. It is too bad the press conference took place when most Russian viewers had already gone to bed. So the thing is here is that this is actually affecting Trump right now. The instability. The quicker that they can resolve this, the better it is for this whole impeachment thing, where they're talking about Ukraine, that the Trump administration sought information on from the Ukrainians or a Ukrainian for the election, his initial election. So the Ukraine is a hot button ticket for everyone right now who's involved in Western affairs in Russia. So the quicker the Russians can actually resolve this, the better it will be for Trump, because it adds credibility to him that he didn't really actually violate any sort of domestic laws. However, that the Ukrainians cannot afford to pay their bills, because the Nord Stream pipeline and the South Stream pipeline circumvent any sort of use for the state of Ukraine, because that's where gas used to pass through to get to Europe. And now it doesn't even go through there anymore. And the Ukrainians can't afford to pay their bills, so there's an urgency to actually try to resolve this as soon as possible, because it does get cold in Ukraine right about now.
Yeah, and I think Putin wants, he basically wants Europe and the U.S. to clean up their own mess.
Yep.
So he's letting them stew.
Yeah, for as long as possible too. I mean, let me address this as well, because I had some week ago, man, there was a Momo who tried to challenge me on this, saying that what I was saying was wrong. Let me pull this up real quick. Because I know he's watching this right now. He always has a lot of criticism for my talking points. So this one is from breakingdefense.com. This is from July 3rd, 2019. U.S. upgrades Ukrainian ports to fit American warships. The argument here is that the Americans would never take Ukraine. They would never, be able to, set up a military base in Ukraine. Well, guess what? They are doing that, and they've been doing that for quite some time. Behind the scenes, they've been working on building up a presence inside Western Ukraine, which is one of the reasons why the Russians won't go in there ultimately, because that would elicit all types of responses from multiple countries that are surrounding it. And if you look at this map right here, which is actually a perfect map, they're building this military base right here outside Odessa, which is in the Black Sea, which would put them 45 minutes away from Russia's underbelly. And Russia going into Ukraine would elicit responses from Poland and Romania and Moldova, Bulgaria, and maybe, there's been rumors that Turkey would actually have to participate in this as well, as a way to get to Crimea. So because they're a NATO member. So
that's sure.
This being the case, there's a lot of vested interest on Moscow side to actually resolve any sort of issues in Ukraine, despite the fact that Ukraine is brain dead right now. It really doesn't have any sort of economy at this point outside of science and engineering. They do a lot of military manufacturing, and they still have a considerable rocket development industry in there. They built rockets for the Soviet Union. So.
Mm. Well, the biggest reason is they want to rival the Russian ports in Crimea, which was the whole reason for the beginning of the Ukrainian war in the first place, is to take those naval bases that have been actually started being developed under Catherine the Great like almost 300 years ago.
And they've had wars fought over that for quite a while. Mainly the Crimean War.
Crimean War, yeah.
People keep forgetting about that one in 1853, and then in 1856. Yeah, Charge of Light Brigade, all that came out of that. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, because without those, because they don't have any warm water ports next to the Mediterranean. They have to sail all the way around if they don't have that port, if they don't have that Crimean port. In Sevastopol. Yeah. So I knew that was, as soon as that happened, as soon as the war started, I said, okay, I know what Putin's going to do. He's just going to slice off Crimea and keep stepping to protect his ports, which they did, right? Like within weeks.
Yep. They put all their advanced military hardware there as well.
Yeah. Well, they got to protect it now because it's going to be a rival. So, of course, the United States, it's really not even about the Ukraine. It's about the Mediterranean and keeping or at least slowing the Soviets down in the Mediterranean.
Exactly correct. And remember, what is that body of water that's in Russia that actually connects to the Mediterranean that people don't think about?
You're talking about the Black Sea?
The Black Sea.
No. There's another one. Come on, BGS. You don't know?
I think there's only one.
No.
The Caspian?
No. Somebody out there knows. Somebody out there, please edify me here. I was just going over that a couple of days ago, forgetting about it. It's another senior moment. But the reality, very simply, is that yes, Russia has a very strong vested interest in. And they definitely will try to clear up those ports because that not only feeds into Russia, but it also covers that whole area that we were just previously mentioning. But it's very, very important for Russia to do that. And you guys hit it on the head. You hit that right in the head.
Yeah.
The hell is the name of that freaking? Damn! I'm sorry, guys.
Let me pull up a map because it's gonna hurt my head too.
It's a connecting body that the people that you don't even know. It doesn't even look like it. People are not even aware of it. And I was just reading about it. And I forgetting the name. Shit. I'm sorry, guys. I apologize. Oh boy, this is very frustrating.
This would be the Sea of Azov, if I remember correctly. And I think you might be talking about this right here.
See, that's exactly it. There you go. Connects right into it. You see what I'm talking about right there?
You're talking about this body of water here.
Hang on 1 second. Let me take a look here. Hold on. Let me get to my screen. I'm sorry. Connects to the Mediterranean, literally through Russia. What's the name of it? What's the name of it, brother?
It should be the Sea of Azov.
Yes, that's what we're talking about. Connects to it.
Sea of Azov right here.
To the Mediterranean. Yeah. Well, area, man.
It connects to the Black Sea.
Connects to the Black Sea, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where it connects to the Black Sea, and that's Crimea.
Yeah.
It is. That's what I was.
Yeah.
This is all shallow water.
It is.
Shallow water here. They can't. The U.S. warships can never get in there.
No, you can't put a heavy military port there.
No, the depth of the sea is, I think it's like 25 feet or something like that. So should be able to pass through that.
No.
Well, it's a little deeper. The only reason, because I know the reason why I was aware of it, because they found some what I'm thinking about, some ancient parts of a
Oh
city.
yeah, yeah. He
Down
probably
there.
did. Yeah, he probably did.
Yeah,
But the thing is, but for a modern military, no. That's
So
like
so you don't think that can be accessed
no,
by way of a
no,
military port.
no.
Now, there's a bridge there. There's a bridge right here, right? And the bridge only goes up so high.
Yeah.
Most US warships will never make it through there.
No.
All right. Okay. All right. I was aware of that. I knew that it was part of Crimea, but I didn't know if that was successful. But I knew that was it connected to the Mediterranean, which I was a little bit ignorant of until I saw this.
It connects to the Black. It connects to the Black Sea.
To the Black Sea from there. Okay.
And the Black Sea, I think there's an outlet right through Turkey that actually outlets to the Mediterranean.
Yeah, the straits right here.
And straits, yeah. And
Turkey has the ability to close that off. Which is why the Russians have a base right here in
That's why I say it's all that is key for them. That's why those bodies, that's key for them there. And that's just I was more or less adding on to the point you guys are making.
No, that's actually a good point.
You guys are dead on it, but anyway.
The Russians want to put a base here in Sudan. I don't know if they started building it as of yet. Because I know Djibouti had already denied them, but I think that was more the United States telling Djibouti to deny them.
Well, you know what? A lot of the African countries, even that's why they call it a embassy in Ghana, which is actually supposed to be the base for AFRICOM. They turned it down because they didn't want to get the African countries really don't want to get in a mix between East and West militaries.
Yeah.
So they've always turned down those bases because AFRICOM has been located in Stuttgart, Germany since 2001. Yeah. And Teresa Whelan was saying is that they were looking for another base either in Djibouti or Ghana or one of the other countries to actually host AFRICOM on the continent, but they've all refused because they don't want to get in the middle of the East-West clash. Yeah, so Djibouti is I think Djibouti's limited because I think the Chinese are there, the Russians are there, and the Americans are there.
Well, not the Russians, but the Japanese and the South Koreans are there as well as the French have a military base there.
Okay.
What's the other one? Turkey's military base is in.
Okay. Yeah, you said the French have a military base there as well, right?
Yeah, the French have one there as well.
Yep.
They're all response forces, rapid response. UAE has a base inside Djibouti as well. They have one just outside their islands right here. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, there's 2 islands outside of it that they have bases on. It's a really crowded neighborhood in this whole entire alley right here.
Yeah, well, that's where a lot of oil goes through. So yeah,
it does. Yeah, critical choke point if you can control that. I'm right.
Yep. Yeah, Turkey has military bases inside Somalia now. I know the Russians were building one in Sudan. They're also supposed to be building one in Egypt as well as Libya. Angola and the Russians are supposed to be building a naval port there as well. Probably by 2028 supposed to take place. So let's see, what's Nigeria? I know that they have been having talks with NATO to build a port there. Well, there's been talks with NATO to build a port there, but then the Chinese said, no, we want a port there because they're going to build it out themselves outside of the Belt and Road Initiative.
Yeah, because AFRICOM, if you listen to Teresa Whelan, was supposed to actually control the Sahel, not all of Africa, but just the Sahel, going right across that strip, right, above Nigeria and Guinea, Burkina Faso, all the way across into Sudan and Ethiopia. That was their thing. They thought if they could control the Sahel region, they could control the continent. The dividing line between sub-Saharan and Northern Africa. Yeah, that was the whole objective of AFRICOM. In fact, if you look up Teresa Whelan in Ungoverned Space, she actually explains the whole reason for AFRICOM.
Yes, actually, she's a good author on that.
Yeah, I had read something on that about 2 years ago, almost 3 years.
Yeah. I remember when she was first stumping for it. That I think 2000 when I first saw her, it was like 2004, 2005, when she was first stumping for it, and I think the video is still up in John Hopkins. Rethinking defense or something like that. They put in rethinking, and Teresa Wheelan, the video should come up where the original proposal was there.
Yeah, I remember looking at that when you brought it up. I had I was aware of it, and I had read an article on this few years ago, and I hadn't really gone back to it a bit. But I thought that
when I was in Ghana, I was asking some of the officials about the embassy and how come they didn't want to host AFRICOM, because that's what if you ever been to Ghana, that big ass embassy is like humongous. It's way bigger than an embassy should be. It's like, you can't, it's got cameras everywhere, security everywhere, and it's like miles long. I said, what's this for? I said, it was supposed to be the AFRICOM base, but they wouldn't allow them to host AFRICOM there.
It would have been suicide for them to have the U.S. an AFRICOM base right there, and the other countries are sitting by looking at them like, "Are you kidding me?"
Yeah, they invested a lot of money to put that base there.
Yeah. What was I about to say? We didn't cover Latin America.
It's a lot there, man. A lot there. And I'm getting calls from Brazil. It's talking to my ex-fiance from down there. Shit is just it's going. But see, if you look at one thing I'm gonna say about what's going on in Brazil is going on enterprise-wide, I believe, in South America. So our forces that are here trying to turn it conservative, right wing, and push our agenda, that's going on all throughout South America right now.
The great game continues. Remember I told you when once Venezuela jumped off that they're going to turn to defend their backyard. This is the great game continues.
No question about it. We once again people go back to the most famous Monroe Doctrine and all that. And that's what's in play right now. So Brazil and all of South America is playing the same game. I personally don't think that much of it is sustainable. I think there's going to be some big turns. There's going to be some big turns. There's going to be a lot of unrest in South End. We're going to have to change some of our policy down there, and I think that's going to be an issue. So this is going to be very interesting to see. Go ahead, BJ.
Let's see what went on in Africa in the in the 2000s is probably going to go on in Latin America in the 2020s. The same kind of strife. So we just see who falls and what are they going to do. So come they're trying to put NATO into Latin America because that's their backyard.
Yeah.
And you got the BRICS nations, and which Brazil, of course, is a big part of the B in there. And there's a lot of economics behind this. It's just. So
what's your sense about Brazil's loyalty to the BRICS? Is it wavering? Is it solid? What?
I think it's solid. I actually believe that it's solid because they see where they could really benefit. But I feel that there's a lot of issues just going on internally with the corruption of the government and really taking this strong right wing type of turn, which I don't think is going to work. I don't work there.
So we need to ship some yellow vests down to Brazil. I'm kidding. If y'all listen, I'm kidding. NSA, DOD. I'm kidding. I'm just joking. I'm joking.
Moving north, right? So they're moving to Nicaragua now, right? They're talking about got Trump saying we got to do something about Nicaragua, right? We got to do something.
Nicaragua was already bought and paid for. They were trying to build was it a canal?
No, that was
canal. Was it Nicaragua?
No, that's Guatemala. not Guatemala. I think it was Honduras. I think, if I remember.
No, I don't think it was Nicaragua. They're supposed to build a secondary canal. I think the Chinese were thinking about it.
Oh, they already started. The process already started.
Yeah, it was. I do believe it was Nicaragua.
Yeah, it's not supposed to be finished until at least 2022.
Last I heard it had gotten stalled, but they're continuing it. Okay.
Yeah, well, the environmental, justice warriors out there.
Yeah.
Talking about we have to save the wildlife.
I know the Chinese were sinking like $50 billion into digging another one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But now they're talking about, drug cartels are terrorists now, under U.S. law. So,
drug cartels been terrorists since Pablo Escobar in the 80s.
Right. Yeah. I mean, Pablo
God rest his soul.
was a stone cold terrorist. I think he's a psychopath as well.
Oh yeah. I played ball with his nephew. They're interesting characters. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, there's
some crazy folks, boy.
There's some sick folks.
There's some crazy folks.
But when I was in Colombia before, about 2 years ago, it was very surprising to see that he still had people still spoke. Well, they spoke well of him. I wasn't going in there talking a lot about it because we go down there doing that.
Yeah. I mean, we had our version. There was this Bumpy Johnson and a few others. So there's always two sides to that coin.
Yeah. Well, he did some good stuff. That down there, even though all the evil that he did do, he did build up. He did build up his own town there. Well, call his town, but he had his own buildings that for housing and so forth, built hospitals and stuff. And if you go down, Colombia and Parque Medellin, you can walk around there. And all. It's just nice.
When we had that, remember the savings and loan crisis in the late 80s?
Yeah,
well, they're bailed out by cartel money. So it is what it is. Cocaine money bailed them out. So bailed out those banks.
And I don't hate to say this. This is something people not going to like to hear. But during the 2008 crisis, BGS, you want to finish on that one? You want to complete that one for me, bro?
You're talking about China, or are you talking about the FARC guerrillas and drug money?
No, I'm talking about our economic system here in the banks and kind of what.
The thing is Nagone, that stuff never got solved. It never got solved. All they did was they put all that stuff in suspended animation. It never got solved. It's still there. The sword of Damocles is still dangling over our heads.
And what kept a lot of stuff solvent was a lot of that cartel money as well.
Oh yeah. What do you think
hate to say it.
What do you think the Fast and Furious is about?
Come on.
Yeah.
That's what we're all about. Yeah.
It's just moved up to Mexico instead of being in Colombia.
And they put a lot of that money into our institutions.
All I can say is Chi-Town is the best place for a cartel. Let's put it that way. Enough said. Hey, I'm kidding.
You're not kidding. You've been there using the same routes that Capone was using.
I'm kidding. Just check out the I-35. All right, coming from Mexico. All right.
Same route.
That's all I'm saying.
Same route.
Same route.
They've been like that, man, since the 20s. But anyway, it was, it's
not including the Nigerians going through Brazil and 2 points to Europe. So I'm not saying.
There we go. Here we go.
The Dope Incorporated still lives. I got to read that book. I've leaf through it, but I got to dig it out and actually sit down and read it again. Dope Incorporated. One of the best books that the LaRouche Group ever put out.
Yeah, I mean, after 2008, they put all that money, helped to keep the system going. I didn't see too many drug busts going down. Didn't see a lot of guys getting locked. Didn't see any big cartels getting hammered.
Nagone, you a money man. You know about the stock market boom from 94 to 2001, right? And there's a certain group called the FARC guerrillas.
Yeah.
And their illicit money going into the stock market.
and they were supposed to, and then they got, well, in fact, if you saw Narcos, program, the TV show Narcos, it actually called that one out, to where the FARC guerrillas, who were, really under one guys, then got linked up with the cartel guys and started playing a slightly different game. And that's where you have an agreement going on in Colombia now.
They said that's one of the most famous episodes of Miami Vice.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Well, Michael Mann called it out. He called that one out. I think the name. I remember the name of the episode. What was it with the guy Calderon and all of them? Yeah, but
when they met the banker,
they called it out.
When they met the banker,
yeah. He was like, "You're just along for the ride, boys.
He's just along for the ride.
We lost hundreds of millions of dollars. We're gonna get our money back.
You want our money back?
We're gonna get our money back.
Yeah.
So we're dealing with these guys. So you can hang out and bust one or two people, but get out of the way.
Yeah, you can't stop it.
Yeah. Michael Mann called it out. Called it out.
He got away with it.
Got away with it because it was the 80s.
Yeah, they got away with it.
They were building Miami skyline. They were building Miami skyline with all that money.
With all that money, yeah. Miami wouldn't be what it is today without cartel money. But it is what it is.
No chance. No chance. The price is high.
I'm wondering about Austin and I-35.
Well, that was a famous route, right? That's a famous route, right?
That's the famous route, right? That's the NAFTA route from Mexico.
That's famous route.
Yeah, to Canada. Yep. I'm just saying.
So just saying.
Just saying.
Leave that alone.
Yeah, and leave that alone.
Come on.
Yeah. We don't deal in conspiracies here. We just drop a few facts. You can take it how you want to.
And it's just the money. Just follow the money. Anyway, go ahead.
It is the money. Go ahead, Mike.
No, I was just gonna ask. Are you able to live stream on your Reborn channel?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought that you were shut down for good, man. I know how.
Nah, it's just like I just took a week or so off, man. It's like, I've been doing it for 4 years. I said since I got flagged, let me just take a week off. I think.
You accrue vacation, dude.
Yeah, I think the main channel will be back up, this week. So.
Okay.
So.
I thought you had two flags. So I was like, oh.
I got, and the weirdest thing is that now, I've said some controversial stuff. And if it was the controversial stuff that they flagged me on, I could understand it. But it's old stuff, and I've been saying is what in this video is goes against community guidelines, because like I said, there's some other stuff where I say way more controversial stuff and didn't get flagged. But a couple of videos is this doesn't make sense. But I guess they're showing me that it doesn't matter. I have no idea what YouTube is doing.
Yeah.
Because the video that got people upset, that didn't get flagged, which is the April Mason video I did with that didn't get flagged. That didn't get touched.
Okay.
I mean, not one. So the videos that they flagged, I said, wait a minute. I said, I'm not even talking about women in this one. This is something else. I said, what gives? And
BJ, that makes sense. How many people have you been averaging in your live streams over like the last month or so?
In my live streams, I've been averaging right around 400.
Has it been higher? Because I've seen a few where you had 600-700 people.
Oh yeah, it's been higher, but I've had a couple of bumps that were higher, but the average has been right around 400.
Okay,
that's the average.
The reason why I think maybe you're getting too many views. I'm just I'm starting to think certain narratives they're trying to cut down now. Certain narratives they don't want out there. Certain narratives and certain things being said as well.
The thing is that the way, and you guys know the way I work, it's not how many people see or hear me, it's who hears me.
Yeah, well, that's all this.
So that's what I said. Who hears me, and so I don't need, I don't need 30,000 subs to do what I do or get what I want out. All I need is 500 because the 500, you guys know, it's the 500 that really are able to take your message and actually do something with it, or in position to do something with it. It's not that many people. It's not a whole bunch of people, because when I was doing my stuff in real life, we didn't have that many listeners. It wasn't that many listeners. Okay. We didn't have thousands and thousands of listeners, but the thing is, the people that did listen in outside of the government folks were in positions, or connected to people that could actually affect policy. So they can say, hey, listen to these guys, listen to what they're saying. Not saying that they're right or wrong, but listen to them. And they would get connected to some people that are in position to do things about it that actually affect policy, which is how you guys know that not by now, because you guys been doing it long enough, is that the people that are attracted to your work are in position to actually do something about it or affect change. And that's how it works. So it doesn't matter. I don't need 40,000 people. I just need a small, but they've been, YouTube2's been after me since I had less than 500 people. So this is nothing new.
I'm just looking at, the streams, who's listening, because, I've been talking to a few people. If you got 500 people in the stream, that means that probably about two, maybe, because usually it's just not one person. You have 2, 3, 4, 5 people at a time, maybe looking at it, sitting in front of a computer or sitting around a room listening, and then. Yeah. So it could be easily 2,000, 3,000 people, you know what I'm saying, at one given point in time, really looking at what's really going on.
Because my average views now on my streams is like 7,000 or 8,000 views on a stream.
Yeah, so people, people are looking, and I know the Manosphere has been making it inroads, because I had gotten an email from this is a while back.
Okay.
I'm not gonna name drop. Mike knows who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But he's a fraternity brother of mine. I'll just leave it like that. He's a fraternity brother of mine.
Yeah, there's a couple subs that there have been connected. I'm not gonna. You guys might know who they are, but I'm not gonna say who they are. That have been in positions of power, and it knows exactly what I'm talking about.
But these people are part of the media, big media, and they'll say, "Hey, listen, you guys are talking some good stuff. Just don't let the fights get in the way of your message." So people are watching, people from CNN, MSNBC, and others, and people who were on those channels, if you will, from CNN or whatever. They're looking at you. You'd be surprised who's looking.
Oh yeah, that was years ago, like 10, 12 years ago. A little bitty internet station that my partner had. We'd say something 2 weeks later, it'd be in the paper. So I know. So they listen.
Folks are listening.
Folks are listening. Well, you guys already know that folks listen, because I'm sure you guys heard something that you said being repeated.
Well, not just that, but Morning Joy, Tariq, she pointed this out earlier this week that they have all the hashtags down by the Democratic National Party as or the DNC as being disruptors of political progress now.
Yeah. Basically, ADOS, regardless of what we say about it, ADOS did a lot of damage to the Democratic campaign for 2020. A lot of damage, and basically, I'm sure the Democrats have, they had long memories, and we were actually talking about it. We were talking about Tone and Yvette, basically Trump stumping for the something for the Democrats. I said it's too late. The Democrats don't like them. The Democrats, Democrats spent a whole lot of money to actually silence that message and kill that movement. And the Democrats aren't going to forget. So Tony and Yvette are persona non grata as far as the Democrats are concerned.
Yeah.
They would be with me if I was at the DNC. Okay. They couldn't get a meeting with me.
Well, they're already writing political hit pieces against the Manosphere and members, the constituents of the Manosphere. So, SYSBM,
why? Okay.
Idmore.
I'll say it here, and I'm only going to say it here once. Okay. I have heard from a couple of PhDs, one who I know, and I heard from another one. That love them to death. But these messages are being heard not only by students, black male students, but also black male professors in the academy. And they won't come out and say it, but they do listen. And basically, especially amongst the undergrads and postgrads, this stuff is spreading, and there's things going on. And basically, that's how come Tommy Curry is a legend. If it wasn't for the manosphere, Tommy Curry wouldn't be a legend. But Tommy Curry's a legend now,
as well as he should. And
we're digging up way too many facts, and I've been told the feminists do not like it. So basically, just like I told the MGTOWs, okay, you're gonna get your 15 minutes of fame. What are you gonna do when it happens? What are you gonna say?
Right.
Because it's coming.
Yeah, well, it's not coming. It's already here, and some folks have been feeling the heat. But I say we just continue to keep the heat on, and all of this, some of this fight and all this craziness that we see going on between us, that's got to come to an end. We got to sit down and really focus
because those are ciphers, those are ciphers. And as soon as the women came back and money came with it, I'm not saying they left completely, but they compromised their position.
Yeah, that's for sure.
That was immediate. So,
yeah, that's for sure.
It is what it is. So, which is why I just try to do what I do, and let other people do what they do. So, and I try not to get. I mean, you can't get get caught up in it sometimes, but the thing is, I try to, if I have a beef, I try to settle. I try to project it. It might happen for a week, and then let it go and move on to the next thing. I don't like these beefs dragging out for 6 months to a year or whatever like that. Like what's going on?
Well, as you know, you're being closely watched.
Yeah,
being close. I'd say people, just think about some of the stuff that you're doing. Just think about it. You're being watched. Let's play this game a certain type of way because we could be devastatingly effective out here.
Yeah, because a lot of what I call the gynocracy, the black female intelligentsia is vying for power.
That has to be fought against. I'm sorry, that has to be challenged.
Well, the thing is, it can be challenged. It is being challenged, but guess what? If it's challenged, they have the ability to push back.
Well,
and YouTube,
it's always been the case.
And YouTube is not a friendly place for black male intelligentsia.
Yeah, very anti-intellectual, anti-black male intellectual, and
anti-black male intellectual.
That's a fact.
Black dangerous as well. So,
that's a fact.
Yeah, so
but we can't counter that. We got to keep it coming. Sorry.
Yeah, well, that's how come that piece I did for April Mason, and they were. I know they had to flag the whole channel because I was getting like 5 notices a day.
It was too on time. It was too strong. It was too on time. And see, a lot of other brothers were banging out that as well. The manosphere came down like the JDL on that situation. And and it put a lot of heat on her. She took a lot of heat. And they don't like that. They don't like taking that kind of heat. And you were hammering that hard and very effective. It was a problem. They didn't like it. Too effective. Go ahead, Mike. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, I think this is, the perfect time for, brothers to really start establishing their own platforms off of mainstream social media. I know, I think somebody said that Black Avenger was down, or Black Spot, one of those.
Black Spot's gone because they have a DDoS attack that they couldn't fund to fight, so they just let it. Black Spot's gone. So.
Yeah. Hold on a second. Hey, Mike, let Complex on before you go out. Complex trying to get on.
Yeah, so.
He's already on.
Oh, he's on? Okay.
Yeah.
Right,
So I think this is going to be a perfect time for brothers to really start establishing their own platform. I know the Duran, the article we read, because their channel has been getting under attack as well. And they had to get off of YouTube recently.
The who?
The Duran.
Okay.
Yeah, they're Moscow based.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. You know what? This is just my gut. my gut, I think they underestimated Black YouTube until to the ADOS thing, and they found out the power of ADOS, power of the social media, especially the power of the YouTube personalities, and how it affected the political climate, especially with Kamala Harris. I think that might have a lot to do with it. All of a sudden, we better push back on these guys because they're because the thing is not they were thinking that Black YouTube or black male YouTube was a bunch of guys sitting in their in their living room or just sitting in mama's basement without an education. They didn't expect that you guys are not. I keep saying that you guys are not the average bears. I said most of these guys have at least a bachelor's and earn a lot of you guys earn at least $80,000 a year or more. So you guys are not the bottom 10th. You guys are like more closer to the top 10th.
Yeah, they're calling us incels in some of these articles, man. So
they're trying to link you with the if they can call you an incel and link you to all the black mass shooters, the white mass shooters that they call the incel, or trying to link to the incel communities. They're trying to put you guys together with what they call white terrorists.
Yeah. Exactly. To almost make you a black extremist terrorist kind of.
Yeah, they want to make you guys like a black extremist or a disaffected black males that are going to pick up an AK-47 and shoot up a school, but that's not the case. But they want,
and they know that. But see, this is the real danger that these guys are playing. They're gonna try to shut the black male voice down and try to separate you from the black woman and try to make this thing a little different, and then to say, well, black female, that's going to be our political group, and what they're doing is quietly screwing themselves. And I think some of the people inside of the party, the Democratic Party establishment, are sitting there saying, "Hey, hold on one second. We might need to take a second look at this."
This is why you had that video, "Dear Black Men, we love you," right? Now, all of a sudden, the gynocracy that had been told you to sit down and shut up. We don't need your opinion. All of a sudden, now we love you.
There we go.
They need you to shut up. They need you to stop pointing out things. They need you to stop disrupting because you're going to ruin, because their reputation is that they run the black community. And if the people that they run, which are the men, don't conform or they actually decide to buck, then that's going to ruin their power. Okay.
And so they're looking at it, and if they lose because of this, then everybody's ass out. So to speak.
Well, they're on trial. You look at because I was talking to a couple of people there in Chicago. Basically, the black females political parties basically run in Chicago right now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and they run Baltimore, they run in Atlanta, so basically they're on trial. I think they're even running Dallas right now, so they're on trial as far as what kind of power can they wield. So,
well, I actually got a little insight on the Dallas crew there that they definitely have a lot of power, but one of the things is that they have a lot of the firms, the black law firms that they came out of were black male-owned law firms. So the black men, to a large extent, who were running their business and running their practices down there, a lot of these black women came out of. So they actually were kind of pushed forward by them. So brothers got a little bit more hand in the game than some of us might want to give us credit for. In Dallas, more specifically, Atlanta at a certain level, certainly. But New York for sure. New York, whatever black females come out of here, I know the black law firms here, and I know exactly how this game is played here. But I can't speak for rest. I don't know about LA and how that game is played. I would suspect that it's somewhat similar.
LA's Latino.
Okay.
So basically, most of the power, the black political powers, probably rest in Northern California under Willie Brown's cohort. Black Jewish cohort, because Kamala Harris comes out of that camp. So you look at Pelosi, Boxer, and what's the others? Boxer left, but the same. What's Feinstein? Okay, all those come out of Willie Brown's camp.
Okay,
even Gavin Newsom, who's the governor, who's going to want to run for president, he's out of Willie Brown's camp too.
Yeah, that I'm aware of.
Yeah. So a lot of that power comes out of the black political power comes out of come out of Willie Brown's camp. So, yeah. But basically, Southern California is basically Asian money and Latino demographic.
Okay. Yeah, well, it would seem that way because California definitely has a very large Latino population.
Oh, well, yeah, huge. Well, they've imported them all. This is where they're from, and they imported them all. And then although that Chinese tech money, Chinese and Korean tech money wound up here in Southern California. So basically, a lot of Orange County is actually bought up by the Chinese. So from San Diego all the way up to Los Angeles, there's a lot of Asian investment.
Yeah. I can see that. Somebody was saying something about all Dallas, but Dallas has a lot of black owned law firms down there, and the brothers tend to run those, and that's what these women are coming out of. These are facts.
Yeah. I definitely got to respond to or create a response live stream to Mr. Fantastic, man. We didn't get a chance to really chop it up the way we're supposed to chop it up, man. Unfortunate, we had some disruptors over there.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying, and because I was on there for a little while now, noticing the stuff that we've been talking about for 4 years now, they're seeing it and they're scared. Because now it's new to them. Oh shit, this is a real thing. Because that's never gonna happen. It's not gonna be in the headlines. This is a real thing.
What are you talking about specifically here, BGS?
Fourth Industrial Revolution, loss of jobs, UBI.
UBI coming up.
Coming up, or in fact, I have an article that they're just now starting talking about a debt jubilee.
Well, we've been talking about that for a couple of years. And the first one who I really heard talking about this, maybe about 5-6 years ago, really was the
Pope.
Wolf.
Oh, Wolf?
Yeah, he had spoken about who. I mean, that's what I heard. But
the Pope had mentioned it in the year.
The Pope, year
2000. He wanted it.
That's right. That's
he saw this stuff coming, and he wanted to declare the year 2000 a debt jubilee year.
That's right. You're absolutely right about that. So he did, and then I saw Wolf and these guys kind of getting on board and kind of talking about that, seeing that as a someone as an option. And then on YouTube, I didn't really hear anybody else really speaking about that per se. Not others, but you were on that pretty early.
Well, you look at the numbers, man. Yeah. People don't understand counterparty debt and derivatives, man, and that as much as we like to think that can be erased, okay, at the end of the day, investors want their money, okay. They don't care how long they takes to get it. At the end of the day, they want their money. So they don't care about what it does to the rest of the economy. You just can erase their debts. They're not going to stand for it. So, and that's how come this stuff is frozen.
Yeah. A lot of stuff's frozen. I mean, it's frozen now, and we still haven't solved a lot of the problems.
That's why you're going back to zero interest rates and negative interest rates, which I don't think Trump is pushing for it, but I don't think the Fed. Do you think the Fed is going to bend that far to actually go to negative?
No.
Okay. I don't because that would just be a white flag for the Fed if they went to a negative interest rate.
Because if you go to negative, how are you going to get out of it? You put yourself in the ground, not the climate. You ain't coming out that bitch. So
the idea is to tempt them, tempt the investors to actually put in at that point.
The thing is if you had if this was pre-automation, and you could actually put people seriously back to work, without global technology competition, there might be a possibility of slowly but surely unwinding all this paper. But how are you going to unwind all this paper? What people aren't going to borrow money if they don't have any money, if they don't have a possibility of having a job. So basically, their debt is going to sit. There's no place for it to go.
What you have in some respects right now is a de facto debt jubilee going on right now. You actually kind of have.
Think so? Explain to me.
So,
explain to me.
Only reason why I believe that is look at all of the assets that we have that are in BGS. You know, the amount of assets, toxic assets that we're sitting at that we're trying to put a cover on right now.
Yeah, like 200 trillion. Yeah,
we're not going to be able to turn that around. Not going to be able to do it.
And that's just the banks. We're not even talking. We ain't even talking about
right now. I'm just talking about the bank. We're not even talking about everything else.
The pension debt. Which we ain't talking about the pension debt. We just talking about the banks.
What happens when you're not able to pay your pensions? What happens then?
Ooh.
What happens then?
Do senior citizens learn how to make Molotov cocktails?
You are talking about the collapse of your society, fam. That's what you taught. It's game over. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah,
they can't afford to have that to happen. So they're going to have to ultimately, slowly but surely, rework this debt plan in certain ways and write a lot of this off as time goes down the line.
Do you see any other way out other than Jubilee?
With all this debt, I'm not seeing it. I'm not really seeing a strong way out of it because we've got so many toxic assets, so much stuff that 2008 was never cleared. It was never cleared out.
Cleared.
It was never.
Which is why Deutsche Bank.
A lot of banks did.
Yeah, which is why Deutsche Bank
had to forgive some. They had to forgive some.
Yeah, I think they did forgive some, but the thing is, it's just so much because Deutsche Bank still's got $49 trillion in derivative debt,
and that all came from its investment banking sector.
Yeah,
all came from and they laid off damn it 20,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean 10,000 people. Well, they have 20,000. They're gonna lay off. They damn near laid off 10,000 people. I mean, this is what's going. I mean, this could take down the bank. This is the biggest, supposed to be wealthiest, strongest bank in Europe. This is where they are.
Yeah, well, Europe. If it goes down, Europe's done.
So if it goes down, they're finished, and they know it. So what are they gonna? They're gonna. You know what game they're getting ready to play.
Yeah.
So
Europe cannot absorb $49 trillion worth of debt. They're done.
Who can do that?
I don't know. I would love it if it was 49 trillion in the United States. I said, okay, we might have a shot.
I mean, the thing that keeps us going here in this country, that keeps us moving, is we have a large tax base where we can tax a lot of people and keep certain things moving. That's what keeps us alive. Geithner said that. Man, we got a large tax base. That's the only reason why we're alive. That's it.
Or you can do what they did in the 1920s with Weimar Germany, just inflate your way out of the debt.
You can, but you're going to have to write some of this debt off.
Yeah.
Some of these guys have to understand. That's why when you and I were talking about a year, maybe 2 years ago, I was like, I don't let some of these banks just go. Because some of these guys, they ain't going to be able to deal on this shit. They're done. They're zombie banks. Just like what's her name was talking about. Huffington, she'd walk around. These zombie banks were keeping them alive. What the hell's wrong with you? She was on that point. I was laughing because she was calling them zombie. I was laughing because it was so accurate. You pump a blood into a dead body.
Yeah. Basically, literally, what you're doing with ZERP is pumping blood into a dead body. Literally,
that's what you're doing. A lot of these guys are finished. People don't want to come to grips with that. So what else are we going to do?
And we try to take them off of life support, which is the Fed was trying to do by raising interest rates. Take them off of life support.
Take them. They're going down.
And all of a sudden, now you see all these cracks, and now they had to put them back on life support and then pump repo money in and keep the system going.
Yeah, exactly correct.
Yeah.
And then the super rich are trying to keep a lot of this going by keeping the market running the way they are, and they're just reinvesting in their stocks and their money keep going and running it up. I mean, it's just, I mean, I see the game. It's unsustainable, man. There's no way we're going to be able to hold this.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
What I'm saying is that I was saying, Mike, is that I understand you want to respond to Mr. Fantastic and Amir and all that kind of stuff. For me and I'm sure Nagone, man, it took us years to be able to grasp this kind of stuff. The reason we're able to grasp this kind of stuff because we've been doing this stuff for years. Okay, the lay person has no clue about how the system works or what this debt means. It's just a number to them. So why can't you just forgive the debt and hire people? It don't work that way, boss.
No.
No, I wasn't trying to respond to Mr. Fantastic per se, but
okay.
with the criticisms on the panel, you know, a lot of ideas that are just way out of proportion.
It's ignorance, man. They don't know.
But they argue like they do, and I think we didn't get a chance to really go into it like we should have, and there's a lot of disruption on here. So I'd rather address those points, you know, in a different live stream and just kind of really clear the air, because I think there's a lot that could have came out of that discussion, rather than for arguing for the sake of just arguing. You know, we really should be trying to come up with some.
They're scared, man. They're scared.
This shit
they're
is huge.
scared because this is a black hole. They're looking into the abyss, and they don't understand how we got there.
And they're
the
scared.
Abyss. Yeah, they're looking to the abyss, and we didn't even give them the whole story, man. We just gave them a little bit of it, and they're flipping out. Oh, it can't be that way. Oh, they're gonna. With automation is gonna create twice as many jobs as it replaces. And at first, I said, where? They said, give me the jobs that are gonna come out. Well, they're gonna come out of somewhere. I said, where?
Yeah.
I mean, even the tech, you know, even the tech jobs, and they need more tech people, but even that's only like 5%.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's still more than enough to fulfill a lot of black people's.
It certainly is.
If we get there first.
Yeah. I'm sitting here with the Rex right now. Me and Mike, we've been doing Rex on the show because you know, I've got a lot of Rex that I'm trying to get done right now, and we looked at the numbers, and you know, there's over 1 million tech jobs that are wide open right now.
Yeah,
1 million.
Yeah, and you're gonna have,
and it's been this way for a while.
Yeah, the thing is, that's one. If you get 2 million, but the thing is, you got at least was it 80 or 90 able-bodied people that aren't working, and then if they start unwinding jobs and automating like they're supposed to, they're gonna have another 40 or 50 million people. There's not enough. But black people need to get there first.
But the problem of it is our educational system as well. You know, I could see exactly where this thing is coming down to. Why has Germany been able to keep their people relatively well employed and keeping their factory stuff going? They consistently have continuing education, consistently retraining their workforce. The kids who are going into school right now are being schooled in such a way where they're being prepared for the current day type of jobs that you're coming to, as opposed to where we were on this 50-year-old, this ancient, you know, Prussian school system that we've been sitting underneath here, not teaching the kids right. We're still teaching kids like it's the 1950s. And
we are. They're doing it now. They're trying to do it now. I don't think they're doing it the right way, but they're trying to do it now. But the thing is, they lost 2 generations because they thought that America was going to keep rolling on, and basically they only needed the top 10% of students to be techies, right?
Yeah, they're wrong.
They were wrong.
And they saw this. They saw the outstretched.
Yes, but India and China went the opposite way. We're going to educate as many of our children as possible to actually come into STEM, and actually gear the whole educational system towards STEM. They're doing it now, but the thing is, they're doing it now. But the thing is, it's like you're like 20 years too late. Remember in the 1980s when they were talking about the elite, the top 10% of the elites. This is like the mid 80s. They're actually gearing, and rest of the people were actually going to be in the service sector because that's where it was gearing. So they're eliminating. We're eliminating the trades at the bottom, and actually started doing the tests on the kids to actually push the what they call the higher IQ kids towards more math and STEM, and the other 90% was basically just fill in the service sector. That was the wrong idea. They did it in the 80s, but the thing is now, you're 40 years behind. You should have done that. When you saw the change, you should have done it right then in the 80s. In the 2020s, you're behind. You're 15 years behind China. China started doing that in the 2000s, early 2000s.
Exactly correct. I remember kids from in China and in India and stuff. These kids are taking calculus in the 8th grade. In the 8th grade,
yeah.
7th, 8th grade. They're being exposed to this. Before they get to high school. I mean, they're on this very early on.
Yeah.
When they're middle school.
Yeah.
And we're nowhere near this. So I mean, at the end of the day, it's just we have totally messed up. Like my grandson, he's in the STEM classes now. He takes it in school and doing that, and they're getting these ears up on some of this stuff. But this is like the first generation really that's getting really heavily caught up in
it is the Z's of the first generation that start this. Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy. So I'm sitting there saying we are 15, 20 years behind the 8 ball.
Yep.
How are we going to adjust to this? So, so you and I, we talked about about maybe 2 years ago. We talked about the UBI and how that it's going to come. It's going to have to come in. We got a lag here.
Yeah.
So we're going to have that. You say that a UBI is not going to be there to make you wealthy. It's going to be there to keep you alive. That's just to keep you some subsistent.
It's an asthma pump. That's what it is.
It isn't. No, it's a transfusion. That's what it is. It has a main line, a life support, where they're pumping the heart and pumping the blood into this body. This is what's going on right now.
And I know there'll be some people, somebody like a preem will be listening to somebody like that, and they'll start screaming and acting crazy. But at the end of the day, you got to look at where the numbers are.
And we're not, preem, I mean, basically, you don't mean to go on. I'm not hoping for this stuff.
No, man, no. Nobody said. I never. Anybody saying you're hoping for this is out of your mind. This is what you don't. You're not hoping
what you don't
for
want.
This.
Yeah.
This was what you're looking at. What does this thing look like on the ground? Where are we on the ground, people?
Yeah.
And that's part of the problem. What bothers me is here is a million tech jobs open, and we got no brothers stepping up to the plate, or very small numbers.
Yeah.
This could, if we were properly educated and had the proper kinds of backgrounds, we could solve some problems pretty quickly.
And that's what I say. My God, the black women have to get out of the way and stop hindering.
Oh, they're part of the problem. These kids can't read. They're the most educated. Your kids, junior can't read.
Yeah.
Junior math skills ain't no good. Junior can't. Come on, man. I mean, they can't get away from that.
You gotta stop. You gotta stop competing with your boys. You gotta stop. We're not your competition. Okay.
No, man.
With your boys, you're gonna have to. I said this. A long time ago. You need to have single-sex education for your boys if you want them to have a chance. I was sitting in the class, in my grandson's class, and said 80% of these kids probably won't have a chance in the society that's coming if we don't do something. I mean, 80%, and that's conservative. 80% of these kids won't have a chance. They're gonna get ground up like dog meat. You just can't. We're trying to tell Amir, we're trying to tell Mr. Fantastic, you can't. You can't. Wait till that person is grown and 20 years old and then try to push him into STEM. It don't work that way.
Mm-hmm. Gotta get them into STEM at 8, 9, 10 years old.
Oh, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Ideally,
crazy. Now you talk
ideally before
crazy,
they even get into, but before they ideally get into any kind of schools that they should be exposed to it. Yes.
Yeah,
but I'm saying if you want to formally teach them, you got to start hitting them in. You got to start hitting them in the elementary school. In the first, second, third grade.
You can't send them up against Indians and Chinese students and compete against those kind of engineers that had calculus at 8 in 13, and you hitting algebra at 20. Okay, it's going to take you 10 years to even catch them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This has been going on a long time. This is not anything new. I think Jonathan Phillips asked me, well, can the corporations cover a lot of these problems? Economically. I heard it said that Microsoft has more cash assets in its corporate coffers, cash assets, than the United States Treasury. I don't know what else to say about that.
Them and Apple, they have more cash assets.
Yeah. Thank you all for joining us, man.
All right.
Please hit the like button as you exit. If you haven't already done so, hit that notification bell so you get all the updates from the Black Brain Trust, including those posted on the community tab. Make sure y'all follow BGS at BGS Reborn on YouTube. So /
I changed it to Black Pill Gnostic to reflect the current environment, because I'm I'm getting ready to get all black. I'm gonna get Black Pill on that channel.
I said, oh, they done push him over the edge. Oh, shit. I said, when I saw that, I said, oh, shit, they done push him over the edge. This is it. Yeah. So the gloves are off. All right, anyway.
All right. Shalom, everyone.
Shalom.